Dozens of glowing eyes surrounded Elwyn in the dark forest. For 16 years, she had believed she was a broken half-blood who would never shift. Yet now silver markings burned across her skin, and a massive black wolf with molten gold eyes stood before her. Then the beast became a man, and every wolf lowered itself in submission. "Who are you?" Elwyn demanded. "Kale Nightborn, Alpha King." His golden gaze locked onto hers. "And whether you understand it yet or not, you're mine." But why would an Alpha King claim a girl everyone else had called worthless? Chapter 1. The Half-Blood Nobody. "You're nothing special, just survive, keep your head down, and maybe you'll live long enough to be useful." Those were the words Matron Delphine had repeated to Elwyn for as long as she could remember. That morning, Elwyn's fingers were already bleeding as she scrubbed the stone floor of Silverpine Orphanage for the third time. Delphine stood over her with folded arms. She was a sharp-faced woman whose expression seemed permanently twisted with disgust. "Pathetic," Delphine muttered. 16 years old and you still can't shift. Half-blood trash." Elwyn kept her eyes on the floor. She had learned long ago that meeting Delphine's gaze only invited more cruelty. Her dark hair hung in tangled waves around her face, hiding the bruise on her left cheek, the result of talking back the day before. "My daughter Vivian shifted at 12, Delphine continued, coating every cruel word in false concern. "3 eligible wolves from the northern pack are already courting her. And you?" Delphine gave a humorless laugh. "You'll be fortunate if anyone wants you as a servant." Elwyn's hands trembled around the scrub brush, but she kept working. The truth hurt more than Delphine's insults. Elwyn wasn't merely a late bloomer. As far as everyone knew, she was broken, half human, half wolf, and accepted by neither world. Her mother had been human. Her father had been a low-ranking wolf who abandoned them both. When her mother died of fever 7 years earlier, Elwyn became a ward of the state. In Silverpine, that meant she became Delphine's property in everything but name. "Did you hear me?" Delphine's boot slammed into Elwyn's ribs. Elwyn fell sideways onto the wet stones, pain exploding through her chest. "Yes, matron," she gasped. "Good. Then hurry. The Alpha's envoy arrives tonight, and I will not have this place looking like a hovel. Vivian needs to make the proper impression." Elwyn's heart sank. The Alpha's envoy. Once every 5 years, representatives from the royal pack traveled through the territories. They observed young wolves and occasionally selected promising candidates to serve in the capital. For most orphans, the visit represented possibility, a new beginning, a real life. For Elwyn, it represented another reminder that she would never belong. She had already been rejected twice. The previous envoy had barely looked at her. Unshifted half-bloods need not apply. As Delphine's footsteps disappeared down the corridor, Elwyn finally allowed herself one small moment of weakness. She sat back on her heels and slipped a hand beneath her ragged dress. Her fingers closed around the small pendant resting against her chest. It was the only thing her mother had left her. The pendant was carved from black stone and covered in strange symbols Elwyn had never been able to read. No matter how cold the room became, the stone always felt warm against her skin. She remembered her mother pressing it into her hands on her deathbed. "You're special, my darling," her mother had whispered. "Never let them convince you otherwise. When the time comes, you'll understand." Years had passed, and Elwyn still understood nothing. Nothing except hunger, exhaustion, and the constant ache of knowing she was unwanted. "Elwyn!" Vivian's shrill voice echoed from upstairs. "Come do my hair, and don't touch it with those disgusting bloody hands." Elwyn looked at her fingers. The skin was cracked and raw from lye soap and endless work. She wiped them on her apron and climbed the stairs. Vivian was everything Elwyn had been told she could never be. Golden-haired, beautiful, confident. She had shifted perfectly at 12 and, at 19, carried herself with the effortless assurance of a young wolf who had never questioned her place in the world. Vivian sat before her vanity in a silk gown that probably cost more than Elowen would see in her lifetime. Finally, Vivian sneered without looking at her. The envoy will arrive in 2 hours. I have to look perfect. Mother says that if I impress them, they might recommend me for a position at court. Elowen picked up the brush and began carefully working through Vivian's golden hair. She knew how to disappear during these sessions. Speak only when necessary. Show no emotion. Give Vivian nothing to attack. Imagine it. Vivian continued dreamily. Me in the capital, surrounded by powerful wolves. She paused dramatically. Maybe I'll even catch the attention of the Alpha King himself. Elowen continued brushing. Vivian smiled at her own reflection. Of course, you'll never need to worry about anything like that. Her voice became sweet. Too sweet. Mother already arranged for you to be sent to the mines after tonight. Elowen's hand froze. Vivian continued as though discussing the weather. She says there's no point wasting food on a wolf who can't even shift. At least in the mines you'll finally be useful. The brush slipped from Elowen's fingers and struck the floor. Vivian's smile vanished. Pick it up. Elowen bent down automatically. The mines. Every child in Silverpine knew what happened there. Workers were crushed beneath impossible quotas. Cave-ins were common. Toxic dust destroyed lungs until even wolves with strong healing abilities could barely breathe. People sent there rarely came back. Elowen doubted she would survive a year. Oh, don't look so dramatic, Vivian laughed. Mother is actually being generous. She could throw you out and let you become a rogue. At least the mines provide food and shelter. Vivian shrugged. Poor food and miserable shelter, obviously, but still. Elowen finished Vivian's elaborate hairstyle without speaking. Her hands moved from habit while her thoughts raced. She had to leave. Tonight, before the envoy departed, before Delphine handed her over to the mines. There, Elowen whispered when she finished. Vivian examined herself critically, then smiled. I suppose it will do. She waved one hand. Now get out. You smell like poverty. Elowen hurried back to the tiny room beneath the stairs that passed for her bedroom. She owned almost nothing. One spare dress, her mother's pendant, and a piece of bread she had hidden from breakfast. She wrapped everything together into a small bundle. She had no money, no destination, no plan beyond getting away, but anything was better than the mines. She would wait until the envoy arrived. The carriages, servants, guards, and excited orphans would create enough confusion for her to slip through the kitchen and disappear into the forest. The woods beyond Silverpine were dangerous. Rogues lived there. So did wild animals. But Elowen had survived 16 years under Delphine. She told herself she could survive anything. As sunset approached, noise erupted outside. Horses, carriages, voices. The envoy had arrived. Elowen pressed the bundle against her chest and crept toward the kitchen. The back door was only 3 steps away when pain exploded across her scalp. Someone seized her by the hair. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Delphine's voice was cold with fury. Elowen's vision blurred as the matron dragged her backward. Did you think I wouldn't see you planning to run? Please, you ungrateful little parasite. I fed you, clothed you, gave you a roof over your head, and this is how you repay me? I'm sorry, Elowen gasped. Oh, you're going to be sorry. Delphine tightened her grip. I intended to wait until tomorrow before sending you to the mines, but I've changed my mind. Tonight is better. Elowen stopped struggling for one terrified second. The overseer's wagon is already outside. No. The word escaped her before she could stop it. Then fear took over. Please, not tonight. I'll do anything. You should have considered that before stealing from me. Delphine ripped open Elowen's bundle and held up the bread. This belongs to the orphanage. Taking it makes you a thief. I could have you whipped for this. She dragged Elowen toward the rear entrance. A rough-looking man waited beside a wagon reinforced with iron bars. A long scar ran down one side of his face. The mine overseer. His eyes were empty. This the half-blood? He asked. Yes. Delphine shoved Elowin toward him. Take her, and make sure she works hard enough to justify what it costs to keep her alive. The overseer clamped one hand around Elowin's arm. His grip felt like iron. She twisted. He barely moved. Then he began hauling her toward the barred wagon. Something inside Elowin broke. Or perhaps something finally awakened. Her survival instinct screamed louder than fear. She turned suddenly and sank her teeth into the overseer's hand. He shouted. His grip loosened. Elowin ran. She didn't head toward the road. She ran directly into the forest. Behind her came Delphine's furious screaming and the overseer's curses. Elowin never looked back. Branches tore at her dress. Thorns scratched her skin. She ran deeper beneath the trees until the voices faded behind her. Still she kept going. Her lungs burned. Her legs trembled. Finally, her body refused to continue. Elowin stumbled into a clearing she had never seen before and collapsed to the ground, struggling for air. The pendant against her chest felt hot, not warm. Hot. So hot that it almost burned. Then she heard something moving. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Circling her. Elowin raised her head. Her blood turned cold. Eyes glowed between the trees. Dozens of them. Wolves. Huge wolves surrounded the clearing, their bodies only partly visible beneath the moonlight. Elowin pushed herself backward. These were not rogues. Rogues moved chaotically. These wolves moved together, watching, waiting. Then the largest stepped forward. A massive black wolf. Silver markings streaked its face, and its eyes burned like molten gold. It stared directly at Elowin with an intelligence that was unmistakably human. Elowin scrambled backward until there was nowhere left to go. The wolf exposed teeth almost as long as her fingers. Then her pendant erupted. White light burst from the black stone. Elowin screamed as it swallowed her. Power flooded through her veins like liquid fire. Ancient, foreign, overwhelming. Her bones shifted. Cracked. Reformed. Her skin burned. Her senses exploded open. She smelled damp earth beneath the clearing, sap inside the trees, every wolf surrounding her, every heartbeat, every breath. She was shifting. For the first time in her life, Elowin was shifting. But this was nothing like the transformations she had heard other wolves describe. Too much power rushed through her. Too much awareness. Too much of everything. When the blinding light finally faded, Elowin looked down. She was not standing on 4 legs. She still had a human shape. But her fingers had become claws tipped with black talons. Glowing silver patterns covered her skin. Each mark pulsed in rhythm with her heart. She looked toward a puddle and saw her reflection. Her ordinary brown eyes were gone. Golden light burned in their place. The black wolf had not moved. It watched her with an expression that looked almost like recognition. Then light shimmered around its body. The wolf became a man. Elowin forgot how to breathe. He was tall and powerfully built, with black hair and the same molten gold eyes. His clothing marked him as nobility, perhaps something even higher. When he spoke, authority rolled through his voice so strongly that Elowin's newly awakened wolf immediately recognized the command beneath it. "Impossible," he whispered. His gaze moved across her glowing markings. "You're Omega." Elowin stared at him. "What?" He stepped closer. Every wolf in the clearing dropped onto its belly. Submission. Total and immediate. The man barely noticed them. His attention remained fixed on Elowin. The markings, the partial shift, your scent. His expression changed from disbelief to something deeper. "You're not simply Omega," he lowered his voice. "You're Prime Omega, the first in 300 years. Elowin backed away. "I don't understand. I'm nobody. I'm a half-blood who couldn't even shift." "You were dormant." His golden eyes followed every movement she made. Your power was locked away until something triggered it. He inhaled. His pupils widened. And now your scent is carrying enough omega pheromones to attract every unmated alpha within 50 miles. As if his words had summoned them, a howl rose somewhere beyond the clearing, then another, and another. The sounds were distant, but getting closer. The man's expression hardened. We leave, now. Wait. Elowen stood her ground despite the fear shaking through her body. Who are you? More howls answered from the forest. He looked at her. Something in those golden eyes stole the air from her lungs. Possession, certainty, something that felt almost like recognition. Kale Nightborn, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. His voice dropped into a growl that vibrated through every newly awakened nerve in her body. And whether you understand it yet or not, you're mine. He took one step closer. You always have been. Before Elowen could answer, the first rogues burst through the trees. Their eyes were wild. Their mouths foamed. Every one of them was focused on her. Kale moved faster than thought. He swept Elowen into his arms. Hold on. Then he ran. The other wolves closed around them in a protective formation, while more rogues crashed into the clearing behind them. Elowen clung to the Alpha King as the forest dissolved into darkness and speed. Only one certainty remained. Whatever life she had known before tonight was gone. Chapter 2. The Alpha King's Declaration. The forest became a blur around Elowen. Kale Nightborn ran with her against his chest, as though she weighed nothing. His wolves moved beside them in perfect formation, while snarls and howls echoed from behind. Kale looked toward a russet-colored wolf running at his side. How many? The wolf gave 2 sharp yips. Kale understood immediately. 12 rogues. His arms tightened around Elowen. More are coming. We need to reach the border before... A massive gray wolf exploded from the trees ahead. Foam dripped from its jaws. Its eyes were wild with hunger. It launched itself toward Elowen. Kale twisted. He put his own body between them. The rogue's claws tore across his shoulder, ripping through cloth and flesh. Kale never slowed. Still holding Elowen with one arm, he caught the rogue by the throat with his free hand. There was a sickening crack. The wolf dropped lifelessly to the ground. Kale kept running. Elowen stared at the blood soaking his shoulder. Someone had just died because of her. Because of whatever had happened to her. I don't understand, she gasped. What is happening to me? Later. Kale's jaw was tight. For now, survive. They burst through the tree line into another clearing. At least 30 wolves waited there. Unlike the rogues, these wolves wore leather harnesses marked with an insignia Elowen did not recognize. Royal Guards. A temporary camp had been built behind them. The instant Kale entered the clearing, the pursuit stopped. Howls continued from the forest, but the rogues refused to cross. Kale finally lowered Elowen to the ground. Her knees buckled. His hand shot out and caught her. Electricity raced through her arm at the contact. Elowen jerked away. They won't cross the border, Kale explained. This is royal territory. Even madness has limits. Elowen tried to step farther away from him. Then she noticed every wolf in the clearing staring at her. Their nostrils flared. Their attention followed every movement she made. Kale's expression changed instantly. Eyes down. His command cracked across the camp. All of you. Every wolf immediately lowered its gaze. The tension eased. It did not disappear. Kale faced Elowen again. His pupils were huge. His hands trembled once before he clenched them into fists. He was controlling himself. Barely. You need to understand what you are. His voice had gone rough. Before sunrise, every unmated alpha within 100 miles may be following your scent. Some will try to claim you. Others may decide killing you is safer than allowing someone else to claim you. Elowen's stomach turned. Then tell me. Her voice cracked. An hour ago I was a worthless half-blood who couldn't shift. Now you're calling me Omega, Prime, and telling me I belong to you. You are not worthless. The force in Kale's answer stopped her. You never were. He looked toward the pendant at her chest. Someone locked your wolf away, probably when you were a child. It would have required an extremely powerful binding spell. Eowyn grabbed the pendant. My mother gave me this before she died. She said I was special. She said I would understand when the time came. Kale extended his hand. May I? Eowyn hesitated before pulling the pendant from beneath her torn dress. The black stone still gave off a faint glow. Kale's expression shifted. Awe. Moonstone. He stared at the symbols. Blessed at the lunar temple 3 centuries ago. His eyes lifted to hers. Your mother didn't give you a keepsake, Eowyn. She gave you a lock. A lock? The binding spell was embedded inside this stone. It concealed your true nature until you were old enough and strong enough to survive awakening. Survive what? Eowyn's frustration broke through her fear. What am I? Kale gestured toward the central tent. Come with me. You need the history. Inside, maps covered nearly every available surface. Different colors marked territories. Notes listed pack locations, alliances, and borders. Kale lit several lanterns. Then he faced her. Wolf hierarchy seems simple from the outside. Alphas lead, betas support. Omegas. He paused. Omegas are rare, perhaps 1 wolf in 10,000. They're usually smaller and carry a scent that strengthens pack bonding and stability. Most live quiet lives under pack protection. But I'm not like most Omegas. No. Kale's eyes remained fixed on her. You are Prime Omega, the old bloodline, something that appears only once every few centuries. He crossed to one of the maps and pointed toward an old illustration. A wolf covered in glowing markings. The patterns matched those on Eowyn's skin. Prime Omegas do more than stabilize packs. They change them. Their presence strengthens alphas, deepens beta loyalty, and increases the power of the entire pack. Eowyn stared at the drawing. Kale continued. Wars have been fought over Prime Omegas. Dynasties were founded on their bloodlines. His voice became quieter. 300 years ago, the last Prime Omega was murdered. Several alphas fought over who would claim her. They tore her apart in the struggle. Eowyn felt nauseous. So I'm a prize. No. A weapon, then? I'm telling you how other alphas will see you. Kale moved closer. Any alpha hungry for power will want to claim you. Not for who you are, but for what your bond could give him. To those wolves, you would become a tool for dominating every rival pack. Then let me leave. Eowyn's voice rose. I'll disappear. I'll hide somewhere they can't. You can't hide anymore. Kale spoke gently, but there was no uncertainty in the words. The binding broke when your wolf awakened. Your scent is free now. It will continue attracting alphas until someone claims you. Eowyn backed toward the tent wall. Kale continued. A completed bond tells other wolves that you are taken. It places you beneath the protection of an alpha strong enough to defend you. And I suppose you want to be that alpha. Kale's jaw tightened. Want has nothing to do with it. Then what does? He moved before she could follow the motion. Suddenly, he stood directly in front of her. Heat radiated from him. His scent surrounded her. Pine, snow, and something untamed that made the wolf inside Eowyn stir with immediate recognition. The moment you shifted, Kale said quietly, the moment your real nature surfaced, the mate bond snapped into place. He pressed one hand against his chest. Here. His gaze never left hers. It feels like a hook buried too deeply to ever remove. He took another slow breath. You felt it too. Eowyn had. She remembered the first moment the black wolf became a man. The second their eyes met, something inside her had recognized him. The sensation had been so profound, it felt less like meeting a stranger, and more like remembering someone she had somehow always known. But she refused to admit that. Not yet. I don't want a mate, she whispered. I don't want any of this. Pain flashed across Kale's face, gone almost immediately. I know. He stepped backward. If we lived in another world, I would let you decide in your own time. No pressure, no politics, no danger. His expression darkened. But we don't have that luxury. By tomorrow night, the other alphas will know exactly what you are. They will come. Eloin swallowed. And some of them won't care whether you consent. They'll force the bond. If necessary, they'll claim you through violence. You're trying to frighten me into choosing you. No. Kale's voice became steel wrapped in calm. I'm trying to keep you alive. He studied her for a moment. Give me 3 days. Eloin frowned. 3 days? Stay under my protection for 3 days. Let me show you that I am not like the others. He continued before she could interrupt. If those 3 days end and you still want nothing to do with me, I will help you find a way to suppress your Omega nature. Eloin stared. It can be suppressed? Temporarily, not forever, but long enough to buy you time. Why would you do that if this mate bond matters so much? Kale's answer came without hesitation. Because I refuse to have a mate who stays with me because she is frightened or obligated. Something raw entered his voice. I want a partner, an equal, someone who chooses me. Eloin said nothing. Even if I have to wait, even if you eventually choose someone else. She searched his face for manipulation, for the same kind of lie Delphine had used whenever cruelty needed to sound reasonable. She found none. Only exhaustion, determination, and something dangerously close to hope. 3 days, Eloin said, but I'm promising nothing beyond that. 3 days. Kale nodded. That's all I ask. A wolf howled from outside the tent, not a distant call. A warning. Kale went rigid. They're here already. Eloin's pulse accelerated. Who? Alphas. He moved toward the entrance. Your scent brought them. Where are you going? Kale looked back. His smile held no warmth. To explain boundaries and consequences. He stopped at the flap. Stay here. My guards will protect you. Do not come outside, no matter what you hear. Then his gaze sharpened. And Eloin, if one of them enters this tent. His voice lowered. Your wolf knows how to fight now. Trust her. He disappeared. Eloin waited only a moment before moving carefully toward the tent flap. She opened a narrow gap. What she saw made her blood run cold. At least 20 massive wolves stood along the edge of the clearing. Alphas. Every one of them. They had not crossed the royal boundary. Not yet. Instead, they paced the line like predators waiting for weakness. Kale stood between them and the entire camp. Alone. Human. His arms were crossed. Gentlemen. His voice carried effortlessly. You are trespassing near a royal encampment. State your purpose or leave. A huge gray wolf shifted. A scarred, brutal-looking man stood in its place. His eyes made Eloin instinctively want to hide. You know exactly why we're here, Nightborn. We can all smell her. He grinned. Prime Omega. First in 3 centuries. The other alphas shifted restlessly. Ancient law says she is unclaimed. Any alpha has the right to challenge for permission to court her. Ancient law, Kale replied mildly, also grants an awakened Prime Omega 28 days of protection before any claim may be attempted. That applies when she awakens under controlled conditions, another alpha called. He was younger, with calculating eyes. She awakened in the wild. His smile sharpened. That makes her fair game. Approval rippled through the gathered alphas. Kale's expression did not change. I understand. His voice became colder. So your argument is that, because she awakened alone in a forest while being pursued by rogues, terrified and confused, she should be considered available to whichever alpha is violent enough to seize her first. That isn't what we said, the scarred alpha replied. We said you don't receive exclusive rights because you found her first. Kale laughed once, coldly. Found her? I didn't find her. He raised his head. She is my mate. The bond formed the instant she shifted. Silence. Then every alpha began speaking at once. Impossible. The bond cannot happen that quickly. He's lying. He wants to establish a false claim before anyone else. Kale raised one hand. The clearing went silent. I don't require you to believe me. His voice was calm again. But I require you to respect royal protection. Anyone who challenges that protection answers to me personally. The scarred alpha stepped forward. With respect, Your Majesty, if she is truly your mate, prove it. His gaze moved toward Elowin's tent. Bring her out. Show us the bond marks. The bond isn't complete. Kale's voice remained controlled. She is still awakening. How convenient. The man sneered. I think you found an unclaimed Prime Omega and decided to hoard her before anyone else could make a case. Then you're welcome to believe that. Kale smiled faintly. From outside my territory. His eyes turned lethal. If you remain here when the sun rises, I will consider your presence a declaration of war. That changed everything. Most of the gathered alphas began retreating. No one wanted open war with the Alpha King. The scarred man remained. Kale studied him. Your name? Royce Starkwater, Alpha of the Western Vale. Kale's smile changed. It became the expression of a predator. Royce Starkwater. Here is what happens next. You leave. Your delegation leaves with you. Then you spread the message that the Prime Omega is under my protection and completely off limits. Royce lifted his chin. And if we refuse? Kale shifted. One heartbeat, he was a man. The next, an enormous black wolf stood where he had been. Elowin had seen that wolf in the forest, but now, with nothing obstructing her view, she understood its size. Kale was almost twice as large as the other wolves. Power rolled from him in waves. Even Elowin's untrained instincts screamed danger. The russet wolf from earlier shifted into a woman with warrior scars and fierce eyes. She looked toward Royce. Alpha Starkwater. Her warning was unmistakable. The king is being generous. Accept his terms and leave. Royce stared at Kale. Elowin saw the exact second arrogance gave way to survival. Royce shifted into wolf form. Then he retreated. The others followed. Within minutes, the clearing was empty except for royal guards. Kale returned to human form. He swayed once. The wound across his shoulder had opened again. Blood soaked his shirt. Then he turned toward the tent. Even through the narrow opening, his eyes found Elowin's. The bond pulled. A thin, invisible thread between them. Alive. Waiting. Elowin let the flap fall closed. 3 days. She had agreed to 3 days. But as she touched the silver markings on her skin and felt unfamiliar power humming beneath them, one frightening question remained. Would 3 days be enough to understand her new life? Or would 3 days make leaving impossible? Chapter 3. The Mark of Protection. Elowin did not sleep. Every sound outside the tent kept her alert. Guards changing position, a distant howl, canvas shifting beneath the wind. She sat on the simple cot still wearing her torn orphanage dress. The brilliant markings from her awakening had faded to thin silver lines. They traced her skin like ancient writing. Whenever Elowin tried to study them, the symbols almost seemed to change when she looked away. Her mother had called her special. Delphine had called her worthless. The Alpha King called her his mate. Elowin no longer knew which truth frightened her most. Dawn crept through the entrance. A gentle knock followed. Elowin? Kale's voice sounded rough with exhaustion. May I come in? She should have refused. Distance would make everything simpler. Then she remembered his blood spilling in the moonlight because he had placed his own body between her and a rogue. Yes. Kale entered carefully. In daylight, he looked less like the terrifying Alpha King who had faced 20 challengers and more like a man who had not slept. A crude bandage covered his injured shoulder. Blood had already seeped through it. "You're hurt," Elowyn said. She immediately regretted stating the obvious. "I've had worse." Kale lowered himself onto a camp stool near the entrance, leaving deliberate space between them. The rogue's claws weren't tipped with silver. "It'll heal. It just needs time." Elowyn knew what silver did to wolves. Everyone did. It prevented healing. A wound that should close naturally could become fatal. Silver chains were kept in the orphanage cellar for children Delphine considered troublesome. Elowyn had worn those chains twice. "You put yourself between me and that rogue," she said. "You could have moved." Kale looked up sharply. "You could have let it take me," Elowyn continued. "That would have solved your problems." "You are not a problem to solve." His golden eyes burned. "And I would take 1,000 claws before allowing anyone, rogue, alpha, or otherwise, to touch you against your will." The intensity made Elowyn look away. "Why?" "Why what? Why do you care?" She forced herself to face him again. "Yes, you say we have a mate bond. Fine. But you don't know me." Her voice hardened. "For all you know, Delphine was right. Maybe I really am worthless half-blood trash who can't even shift correctly." Kale went silent. Then he spoke more softly than she had ever heard. "My mother was Omega." Elowyn's anger faded. "Not Prime. But she was strong, beautiful, kind." His hands tightened. "When I was 7, a rival Alpha challenged her. He wanted to claim her and use her bond with my father as political leverage." "Where was your father?" "Leading a border patrol." Kale stared beyond her as though seeing another place. "We believed she was safe." Elowyn's stomach tightened. "What happened?" "The Alpha entered our home with 12 warriors. They killed the guards." Kale's fingers curled into fists. "They found my mother in the garden." He swallowed. "She fought." His voice stayed steady only through force. "Omegas aren't built for combat, but she fought anyway. She delayed them long enough for the alarm to sound." "What happened when your father returned?" Kale's expression emptied. "He found her bleeding to death on the stones." His eyes turned hard. The rival Alpha was standing over her, smiling. "Gods. My father went feral." Kale spoke like he was reciting someone else's history. "He killed the Alpha and all 12 warriors with his bare hands. 13 wolves. But it was too late." Elowyn understood before he said it. "My mother died." Silence filled the tent. "And your father?" "He never recovered." Kale looked at his hands. "When a true mate dies, the surviving bond can become unbearable. My father remained alive long enough to see me reach 18. His voice dropped. Then one winter morning, he walked into the mountains. Elowyn already knew the ending. He never came back. For the first time, Kale's obsessive need to protect her made sense. "You couldn't save your mother." She studied him. "So now you're trying to save me." "No." Kale met her eyes directly. "I am trying to save you because you deserve to be saved." He leaned forward. "The world that killed my mother treated Omegas as possessions instead of people. That world has to change." Something fierce entered his expression. "And maybe protecting you, giving you a choice she never received, is where that change begins." Elowyn felt something crack inside her. For 16 years she had been told she was a burden, a mistake, worthless. Now the most powerful Alpha in the Northern Territories sat before her, exhausted and bleeding, telling her she mattered. It was almost harder to endure than cruelty. Elowyn glanced at his shoulder. "Your bandage is bleeding through." Kale looked down. "It's fine." "No, it isn't." She stood. "Let me see it." "You don't have to. You protected me. The least I can do is keep you from dying of infection." He still hesitated. Elowyn softened her voice. "Please." That changed something. Kale moved to the cot. He carefully removed his torn shirt. Elowyn's breath caught. The injury was worse than she expected. 4 deep gouges crossed his shoulder and upper chest. The edges were ragged and red. The crude bandage had done little beyond absorb blood. This needs cleaning. Elowen looked around. Do you have medical supplies? There's a kit in that chest. She opened it. Clean cloth, herbal antiseptic, curved needles. Thread. A surprisingly complete field kit. Elowen had spent enough time around the orphanage healer to recognize what she needed. The woman had been decent when sober, and sometimes allowed Elowen to watch her work. Occasionally, when Delphine was too drunk to notice, Elowen had helped. She knelt beside Kale. Being this close to him made his scent almost overwhelming. Pine, snow, wildness. The wolf inside Elowen stirred. This will hurt. I've survived worse. His voice was controlled, but Elowen heard the tension beneath it. She began cleaning the first wound. Kale did not flinch. He did not make a sound. His breathing simply became slower and more deliberate. You learned this at the orphanage? He asked after a while. I learned many things there. Elowen rinsed the cloth. Most of them involved surviving. She cleaned the second gouge. The healer let me watch sometimes. She said my hands were steady. They are. Kale watched her. Steady and gentle. Something in his voice made Elowen look up. Their faces were only inches apart. Gold filled his eyes. Tiny amber flecks surrounded his pupils. She could feel the heat from his body. The mate bond stirred. That invisible connection pulled at both of them like gravity. Elowen immediately focused on the injury again. Tell me what being Alpha King actually means. If Kale recognized the change of subject, he let her have it. Responsibility. How much responsibility? The Northern Territories contain 43 packs. He paused. Nearly 20,000 wolves. Elowen looked up. You're responsible for all of them? I am supposed to keep them safe, prosperous, and preferably prevent them from killing one another. A trace of dark humor appeared in his voice. Which is more complicated than it sounds? He explained the constant disputes. Packs with feuds that had lasted centuries. Neighbors refusing to cooperate. Alphas demanding more land, more resources, more influence. That sounds exhausting. It is. Kale sighed. Then add politics. Every alpha with an eligible daughter has tried to arrange a marriage with me. Every pack grievance somehow becomes my personal responsibility. Every decision I make is examined by 43 sets of eyes waiting for weakness. Elowen threaded the needle. Is that why you never took a mate? Partly. She began stitching the deepest wound. What's the other reason? I refused to settle for a political arrangement. Kale became thoughtful. My parents' bond ended tragically, but what existed between them was real. He swallowed. I remember the way they looked at each other, how naturally they moved together, two parts of the same whole. His voice dropped. I wanted that. Or nothing. Elowen tied the first stitch. And now you think you found it with me. She glanced at him. A woman you met 6 hours ago. I know you are brave. His answer was immediate. You ran rather than accept the mines. You chose a dangerous forest over a life someone else forced on you. You had no money, no plan, and nowhere to go. That isn't courage. What is it? Desperation. Kale almost smiled. Sometimes they are the same thing. She began the next stitch. I know you're kind too. Elowen frowned. You are treating my wounds even though you don't trust me. He watched her. You're helping me despite the fact that I represent nearly everything frightening about your new life. I'm frightened of many things right now. Elowen tied another stitch. These markings, the alphas hunting me, a bond that apparently decided my future without asking me. She drew a breath. But what frightens me most is losing the right to choose. Elle became completely still. I'm afraid I'll wake up one day and realize I became someone else's possession. You won't. His answer carried iron certainty. Not while I'm breathing. Elowen finished the last stitch and began wrapping the wound. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. You told me yourself that other alphas will keep coming. Eventually one might be stronger than you, or smarter, or have more resources. Let them come. A growl entered Kale's voice. I have held this throne for 8 years against every challenge. He counted them without pride. 3 civil wars. 2 assassination attempts. Packs that hated each other for generations, now united. His golden eyes locked onto her. I did not survive all of that to lose you to an ambitious alpha with delusions of greatness. The possessiveness should have terrified Elowen. Instead, warmth moved through her chest. Her wolf responded to the promise. Protection. Belonging. Safety. Dangerous. All of this was dangerous. Elowen secured the bandage and deliberately moved back. There. Try not to tear it open again. Thank you. Kale pulled on a fresh shirt that someone must have left while they were talking. You need real sleep. So do you. The next few days will be difficult. Elowen watched him stand. What happens during those days? Today, I send messengers to all 43 packs. His hand rested on the tent flap. I inform them that I have found my mate. Her pulse jumped. Tomorrow, we travel to the capital. There, you'll have maximum security. He looked back. And on the 3rd day, Kale paused. You choose. What if I choose to leave? Pain crossed his face. But his voice remained steady. Then I honor the agreement. He opened the flap. I help you suppress your Omega nature for as long as possible. I provide money, resources, protection, and somewhere safe to go. His hand tightened on the canvas. And I let you leave. Elowen stared at him. Kale gave a faint, pained smile. But I will probably spend every day afterward hoping you change your mind. Then he left. Elowen remained alone. Her hands smelled of antiseptic and his blood. 3 days. How could anyone decide the course of an entire life in 3 days? She touched the place beneath her ribs where the bond seemed to hum. Warm. Insistent. Real. A frightening thought entered her mind. Perhaps the decision had begun the moment their eyes met in that forest. The moment her hidden wolf awakened and recognized his. Outside, Kale gave orders with the unmistakable authority of a king. Inside the tent, Elowen remembered something else. The exhausted man who had spoken about his mother. The wounded alpha who asked permission before entering. The man who had offered to let her go, even though letting her go would hurt him. Elowen curled onto the cot. She tried not to remember how natural touching him had felt. How right it had seemed to care for his wounds. How strongly she had wanted to close the distance between them. No, not yet. She still needed to understand being Prime Omega. She needed to know whether what she felt was choice or biology deciding for her. 3 days. She had survived 16 years with Delphine. Surely she could survive 3 days with an Alpha King. But when exhaustion finally pulled her into sleep, her dreams filled with golden eyes and promises of protection. And with one terrifying possibility, perhaps she no longer wanted to survive alone. Chapter 4. The Journey to the Capital. The carriage was more luxurious than anything Elowen had ever touched. Velvet cushions, polished wood, real glass in the windows instead of rough shutters. 30 royal guards surrounded it as the horses carried them along the forest road. Some guards traveled in human form. Others ran as wolves. Elowen sat opposite Kale and stared through the window. She had never left Silver Pine. Now endless pine forests stretched toward distant mountains rising through the morning mist. Beautiful, isn't it? Kale's voice was soft. Elowen nodded. I didn't know the world was this big. She looked back outside. At the orphanage, everything was always the same. 4 walls, gray stone, the same. She stopped. Kale understood. You'll never see those walls again. His certainty startled her. Whatever you choose, I promise that. He held her gaze. You're free from Silver Pine. Free. Elowen barely knew how to understand the word. A russet-haired woman suddenly appeared beside the moving carriage, running with impossible speed. Your Majesty, scouts detected movement 3 miles east. It could be merchants, or scouts from another pack. Increase the perimeter, Kale ordered. And have Victor shift. His nose is better than mine. The woman nodded and disappeared ahead. Commander Lyris, Kale explained, head of royal security. That woman from last night? Yes. She seems intense. Kale smiled. She is. She's also more loyal than anyone I know. She has saved my life at least 4 times. He leaned against the cushion. Elowen noticed how carefully he avoided putting pressure on his wounded shoulder. You'll meet the rest of my inner circle at the capital. He gave her a sympathetic look. They'll probably be protective, possibly overwhelming. Because I'm Omega? Because you matter to me. Elowen looked down. And because they understand what it means that the mate bond finally found me. They've been waiting 8 years. Her hands twisted together. Against the carriage's elegance, her torn orphanage dress looked worse than ever. I don't know how to matter to anyone. Kale leaned toward her. I don't know how to become whatever you need. I need you to become nothing. She looked up. Nothing? I need you to be exactly who you already are. His voice was firm. No more, no less. He paused. Though we should start your training. Training? Your wolf awakened, but you have no control yet. Kale explained the partial transformation. It happened instinctively in the forest. That form gave you defense, but eventually you must learn a full shift, scent control, and basic combat. His expression became serious. Especially combat. I'm not a warrior. You're Prime Omega. That doesn't make me a fighter. It means you're stronger than you realize. Kale leaned forward. Your wolf spent 16 years dormant. That doesn't make her weak. It means she has 16 years of power you've never learned to access. As if she heard him, something stirred inside Elowen. A presence. Separate from her. Yet completely part of her. Her wolf. I can feel her. Elowen lowered her voice. But I don't know how to speak to her. Start simply. Kale settled back. Close your eyes. Elowen obeyed. She became aware of everything. The carriage wheels. The guards outside. The horses. Kale's breathing. Now focus inward. His voice became slow and grounding. Don't force anything. Find her and acknowledge that she's there. Elowen searched. At first, nothing. Then, a flicker. Curious. Careful. Alive. Hello? Elowen directed the thought inward. The response came instantly. Not words. Emotion. Warmth. Recognition. Then loneliness. Such deep loneliness that tears filled Elowen's eyes. Her wolf had been trapped inside her for 16 years, conscious, unable to surface, unable to communicate. I'm sorry. Elowen's throat tightened. I didn't know you were there. Affection rushed through her. Forgiveness. Her wolf did not blame her. She was simply grateful to finally be seen. Good, Kale said quietly. Elowen opened her eyes. How did you know? Your scent changed. He smiled faintly. You made contact. He continued. Ask why she chose the partial shift instead of becoming a full wolf. Elowen closed her eyes again. The answer arrived through instinct and images. Her partial form combined wolf strength and senses with human speech and reasoning. It was safer for someone who had lived entirely as a human. Elowen explained what she sensed. Kale nodded. Smart wolf. He leaned back. Mine did something similar when I shifted at 13. It took me months to control the full transformation. Elowen stared. You struggled too? Of course. A small smile appeared. You're already ahead of where I was. The carriage suddenly hit something in the road. Elowen was thrown forward. Kale caught her by both shoulders. Electricity exploded through them. Their faces stopped inches apart. His golden eyes widened. The bond flared. What had previously felt like a thread became something burning, demanding, alive. Eloin jerked away. What was that? The bond. Kale's voice had gone rough. It becomes stronger when we touch, when we're close. He pushed one hand through his dark hair. His fingers trembled. I should have warned you. I'm sorry. Before Eloin could answer, Commander Lyris appeared beside the window. Her expression was grim. Your Majesty, the movement wasn't merchants. Kale instantly became someone else. The tenderness vanished. The king returned. How many? 20 wolves approaching from the east. Lyris's jaw tightened. They're flying Starkwater colors. Royce. Kale stood. That fool. He moved toward the door. He must have circled after last night and tried to intercept us before we reached the capital. Eloin followed. What do we do? You remain inside with 4 guards. Kale looked toward Lyris. Your best. She nodded. The rest of us handle Starkwater. Handle him how? Kale turned. The expression on his face made Eloin's wolf shrink instinctively. This was not the man who had quietly allowed her to stitch his wounds. This was the Alpha King who had survived wars. I warned him last night. Kale's voice became dangerously calm. He ignored me. He opened the carriage door. Now he learns what happens when someone threatens what is mine. Heat moved unexpectedly through Eloin's body. His dominance should have angered her. Her wolf responded differently. Be careful, Eloin said before she could stop herself. Kale's face softened. Always. Then he left. 4 warriors entered. 2 men, 2 women. One of the men had a scarred face but kind eyes. I'm Garrett, my lady. We'll keep you safe. I'm not a lady. Eloin almost laughed nervously. I'm just the Alpha King's mate. Garrett said it as though nothing about the statement could be questioned. That makes you the future queen. Eloin went still. And that makes you worth dying for. The casual certainty in his voice made her sick. Through the window, Eloin watched Kale's soldiers form a defensive line. 20 enemy wolves emerged from the forest. Royce stood at their center in his enormous gray wolf form. Kale remained human. His arms were folded. You were warned, Starkwater. His voice crossed the distance. I told you what pursuing this path would mean. Royce shifted into human form. Standing before Kale, he suddenly seemed smaller. You're bluffing. Royce smiled. You won't risk war over 1 Omega. Kale's face became still. She is not 1 Omega. His voice dropped into a lethal purr. She is my Omega. My mate. And you just made the mistake of calling her single. The bond isn't complete, Royce argued. No marks, no claiming. She remains available. Final warning. Kale spoke softly. Leave now and I will consider this temporary insanity. He tilted his head. Stay, and I consider it a declaration of war against the crown. Royce laughed. You think you can defeat 20 wolves? His eyes narrowed. Even you aren't that powerful, Nightborn. Kale smiled. Eloin had never seen a more frightening expression. I don't need to defeat 20. I only need to defeat you. Kale moved. Eloin barely saw it happen. One instant, he stood several yards from Royce. The next, one hand was around Royce's throat. Kale lifted the larger man from the ground, then slammed him down. The impact was loud enough that Eloin heard bones break from inside the carriage. The Starkwater wolves charged. Kale's guards intercepted them. The royal fighters moved as a unit. Years of training showed in every movement. Snarls and snapping jaws filled the road. Eloin could barely look away from Kale. He had Royce pinned. One hand around the other alpha's throat. The other pressed against his chest. You came for my mate. Kale's voice carried over the fighting. You threatened her safety after I warned you. His eyes burned gold. Give me one reason I shouldn't kill you now. Royce struggled beneath him. The other packs won't tolerate it. His voice came out strained. Kill me and they unite against you. Let them. Kale leaned closer. I have fought civil wars before. I'll fight another. His lip curled. But you aren't worth a war. He released Royce's throat but kept him pinned. You are only another ambitious alpha who confuses violence with power. Royce coughed. Kale continued. You will take your wolves and return to the Western Vale. You will stay there. His hand pressed harder. And you will tell everyone that anyone threatening Elwyn answers to me personally. And if I don't? Kale pushed down. Another crack. Royce screamed as a rib broke. Then I kill you here. Kale's voice contained no emotion. And the crows can strip your corpse while the other alphas learn from your mistake. The brutality made Elwyn's stomach twist. This was another side of Kale. Not the patient man. Not the wounded son. The king. A ruler who had survived 8 years because he was capable of becoming ruthless when necessary. Royce saw it too. His resistance vanished. Fine, he gasped. We leave. Kale stared at him. We won't pursue her. Swear it. Royce's face tightened. By your pack and honor. I swear. His voice was hoarse. By pack and honor, we will not pursue the Omega. Kale stood. Leave my territory. His contempt was unmistakable. And pray I never see you again. Royce shifted. His wolves withdrew with him. The fight ended nearly as quickly as it began. Royal guards returned to position. Kale remained still for a moment, chest rising heavily. Then he turned toward the carriage. Elwyn watched the change happen as he approached. The predator receded. The man returned. He climbed inside. His control slipped just enough for Elwyn to see fear beneath it. Are you hurt? His eyes immediately searched her body for injuries. Elwyn almost laughed in disbelief. I'm fine. You just fought 20 wolves. That barely qualifies as exercise. His hands were shaking. I'm sorry you saw that. Kale sat opposite her. The violence. I would rather have spared you. You protected me. Elwyn interrupted him. Again. She searched his face for the monster she was supposed to fear. She found exhaustion, concern, and that same disarming vulnerability. You broke his ribs. I should have broken his neck. Kale's eyes darkened. He came after you after receiving a direct warning. Because of the mate bond? Partly. He met her gaze. The bond makes every threat toward you feel like a threat to my own life. Then his voice softened. But even without it, I would protect you. Why? Because it is the right thing to do. The carriage began moving again. Elwyn watched trees pass outside. She had witnessed Kale's power, his speed, his brutality. Everything she had learned about dominant alphas said she should be terrified. Instead, she remembered his shaking hands, his immediate fear that she might have been hurt, his apology for violence he had used entirely to defend her. 3 days, she said. Kale looked up. What? You gave me 3 days. Elwyn faced him. But I'm beginning to think 3 days isn't enough to understand what I'm feeling. Hope appeared in his eyes. Then take longer. She blinked. Take as much time as you need. He leaned back. I'm not going anywhere. And if I decide to leave after all that? Kale's expression tightened. Even if leaving means breaking the bond? Pain crossed his face. Yes. His answer did not waver. You are not my prisoner, Elwyn. He searched for words. You are the first person in 8 years who has made me feel like something besides the Alpha King. His voice became almost awkward. Like I'm simply Kale, a man who wants to know what makes you laugh, what you dream about. He looked at her. What you would choose if the entire world stopped telling you what to choose. Elwyn swallowed. I don't have dreams. Kale's face softened. I spent 16 years surviving. There was no room for dreams. Then I'll give you time to find some. His golden eyes held hers. And if you allow me, maybe I can help you discover what living feels like. Hope appeared inside Elowyn. Fragile. Dangerous. At Silver Pine, she had learned that hope could be crueler than despair. Despair expected nothing. Hope made you care, and anything you cared about could be taken away. Still, as Northspire drew closer, Elowyn found she could no longer silence it. Chapter 5. The Capital's Court. Northspire rose from the mountain valley like something created from a dream. White stone towers pierced the clouds. Wolf designs were carved into their surfaces so skillfully that they seemed to move when sunlight shifted across them. Silver bridges connected tower to tower above courtyards, filled with fountains and gardens. And everywhere Elowyn looked, wolves and humans moved together. Some citizens walked in human form. Others padded through the streets on 4 legs. No one seemed surprised by either. "It's beautiful," Elowyn whispered. Kale looked through the window with unmistakable pride. "It's home." He pointed toward the towers. 3,000 years old. The first Alpha King built Northspire after the Great Unification. Every tower? Each represents one of the original packs that agreed to unite. As their carriage passed through the enormous gates of silver-reinforced oak, citizens stopped. Heads turned. Whispers spread. People pointed toward the royal carriage. Elowyn shifted nervously. "They know about me. They know I found my mate." Kale's expression became serious. "That is all. They don't know the details yet." He glanced outside. "After 8 years of refusing political marriage proposals, my suddenly returning with someone has created interest." Interest? Speculation. Gossip. Some kind. Some cruel. Kale looked at her. "Try not to listen." Easy for him. Kale had been born into this world. Elowyn had learned to make herself invisible to avoid being struck. The royal palace stood at Northspire's center, a sprawling network of buildings, towers, courtyards, and gardens. Silver-armored guards stood at attention as the carriage passed through another set of gates. Above them hung the royal crest, a black wolf with golden eyes beneath a crown of stars. When the carriage stopped, Kale stepped out. Then he offered Elowyn his hand. She hesitated. Finally, she accepted it. Electricity raced up her arm. The bond hummed stronger every time they touched. A crowd of perhaps 24 people waited in the courtyard. Fine clothing and confident postures told Elowyn these were not servants. One woman stood at the front, tall, black hair streaked with silver, eyes sharp enough to make Elowyn feel as though every secret she possessed had already been examined. "Your Majesty." The woman gave Kale a slight bow. Then she looked directly at Elowyn. "And you must be the infamous Elowyn." Her mouth curved faintly. "Magistra Elena, Chief Advisor to the King. Welcome to Northspire." "Thank you." Elowyn suddenly became painfully aware of her torn dress. Elena continued. "Commander Lyris has already briefed us on the Starkwater incident. Security measures are being adjusted." She looked Elowyn over again. "You have caused quite a commotion, my dear. The capital hasn't been this interested in anything since Kale's coronation 8 years ago. I didn't mean to create problems." "Problems?" Elena laughed. It was unexpectedly warm. "Child, you are the solution to approximately 50 political problems I've been managing." Kale sighed. "Elena, do you know how many eligible daughters I've politely rejected on his behalf?" She looked at Elowyn. "More than 100. Elena, and now I can finally tell all of them to abandon hope." Kale's warning held affection rather than anger. Elena waved him away. "I'm telling her the truth. She needs to know what she's entering." Then Elena clapped twice. Servants appeared. "Take her to the royal guest quarters. Prepare a bath. Find proper clothing." Her expression sharpened. "And for the love of the gods, feed her. She looks as though she hasn't eaten properly in weeks." Elowyn intended to protest. Her stomach growled loudly. Elena raised one eyebrow. Elowyn gave up. Breakfast at Silverpine had been thin gruel. She had eaten nothing since running into the forest. Go, Kale said gently. I have meetings I can't delay. He hesitated. I'll visit this evening. A vulnerable uncertainty entered his eyes. Unless you would rather I didn't, I don't want to make you uncomfortable. Eowyn stared at him. The Alpha King was asking her permission. I'd like that. Kale's smile transformed his face. Then I'll see you tonight. 3 servants escorted Eowyn through the palace. Every corridor seemed more extravagant than the last. Marble floors, huge tapestries depicting legendary battles, chandeliers that looked as if they held actual diamonds. Finally, they stopped before carved double doors. A middle-aged servant with kind eyes opened them. Eowyn stopped. The suite beyond was enormous. The bedroom alone was larger than Silverpine's common room. A 4-poster bed covered in silver and blue silk dominated one wall. Windows stretched from floor to ceiling and overlooked the entire city. Through an archway stood a bathing room with a tub so large Eowyn thought she could swim in it. This can't be mine. The servant smiled. Royal guest quarters. She introduced herself as Mara. You'll stay here until your status is decided. Mara gestured gently toward the room. If you accept the king's courtship, you'll eventually move to the queen's chambers. And if I leave? Mara paused. The answer did not need words. All of this would disappear. Eowyn would return to uncertainty. Running. Surviving. But staying meant accepting Kale. The bond. Perhaps one day the crown. Come, Mara said. You need food and a bath, the rest can wait. The bath felt like heaven. Hot water, lavender, soap so soft that Eowyn barely recognized the sensation against her skin. Servants washed her hair without pulling. None commented on the scars across her back, marks left by Delphine's punishments. When Eowyn finally emerged wrapped in a robe, she found at least a dozen outfits covering the bed. Dresses, trousers, tunics, training clothes. We didn't know what you preferred, Mara explained. Magistra Elena ordered variety. Eowyn selected a simple deep blue dress. Elegant without being extravagant, long sleeves concealed most of the silver markings. She looked into the mirror. The woman looking back at her seemed unfamiliar. Clean, properly dressed. Almost pretty. Beautiful, Mara corrected. Eowyn looked over. Mara smiled. You are beautiful, my lady. Her eyes went toward the faint silver marks at Eowyn's wrists. Those markings are considered sacred. They're the sign of Prime Omega. They're considered valuable. Eowyn's voice became bitter. That isn't the same thing. Mara's expression softened. Not to Kale. You don't know that. I've served this family for 20 years. Mara sat nearby. I watched Kale grow from a boy. I watched him survive his mother's death and his father's grief. She gave Eowyn a knowing look. I have never seen him look at another person the way he looks at you. He barely knows me. Doesn't he? Mara smiled. A true mate bond doesn't manufacture feelings from nothing. It reveals something that already exists. She continued quietly. If his wolf chose yours, perhaps some part of both your souls recognized the other before your minds understood. A knock interrupted them. Mara opened the door. A young man with sandy hair stood outside. He looked perhaps 20, and extremely nervous. I'm supposed to escort Lady Eowyn to dinner. He immediately flushed. If she's ready. I don't mean she has to be ready. There's no hurry. I'm Tobias, by the way. Junior diplomat, 3rd class. Not especially important, but Magistra Elena thought. Tobias. Mara smiled. Breathe. Right. He inhaled, then began again. Lady Eowyn, the king requests the pleasure of your company for dinner. He straightened. A private dinner in his personal chambers, if you are comfortable with that. If not, another arrangement can be. I'll go. Eowyn took pity on him. Tobias visibly relaxed. He led her through quieter corridors toward the palace's private wing. 2 warriors guarded the doors to Kale's chambers. They opened them without question. Elowyn had expected overwhelming luxury. Instead, Kale's rooms felt lived in. Books covered tables. Maps hung on walls. His desk was buried beneath correspondence and official documents. The chambers were still beautiful, but they were clearly also a place where someone worked. Kale stood near a window. He had changed into black trousers and a white shirt. Against the simple clothing, his dark hair and golden eyes seemed even more striking. He turned and froze. Elowyn. Something in his face changed. You look clean? She tried to make the word a joke. Radiant. His answer was completely sincere. Then he smiled. Though I liked you just as much covered in mud and wearing that torn dress. It isn't the clothing. Elowyn's chest tightened. You mentioned dinner. Servants entered almost immediately. They arranged covered dishes on a table beside the windows. When the covers came off, the smell nearly overwhelmed her. Roasted meat, fresh bread, vegetables she couldn't identify. Kale watched her. I wasn't sure what you liked, so I ordered several things. He gestured awkwardly. There's wine, tea, water, juice. Elowyn stared at him. You're nervous. Kale pushed one hand through his hair. A habit she was beginning to recognize. Terrified. You? I've negotiated peace treaties and faced rebel armies without losing sleep. He laughed at himself. Apparently dinner with you is what finally destroys my composure. Elowyn sat. Tell me about your meetings. Kale seemed grateful for the safer subject. Ironwood and Silvercrest are fighting over a tributary. He served food onto her plate as he spoke. They've argued for 6 months. Both believe they own the river. What else? Rogue activity in the south has increased. His expression tightened. When rogue numbers rise suddenly, something usually destabilized the local packs. Elowyn tasted the meat. She almost made a sound. It was tender, perfectly seasoned. Nothing like the gristle she remembered from Silverpine. Do you always work this much? Usually more. Kale watched her eat with obvious satisfaction. Elena believes I'm trying to work myself into an early grave. She may be right. Someone has to prevent 43 packs from tearing one another apart. He nodded toward her plate. Good? Good doesn't begin to describe it. Elowyn took another bite. This is the best meal I've ever eaten. Pain moved across Kale's face. The orphanage didn't feed you properly. It wasn't really a question. They fed me enough to keep me working. Elowyn looked down. Delphine said wasting food on half-bloods was poor stewardship. Kale's hands slowly became fists. I'm going to visit that orphanage. No. Elowyn answered immediately. She isn't worth your time. She starved you. His voice became cold. She abused you. She tried to send you into a mine where she knew you would die. The air around him felt dangerous. She is absolutely worth my anger. Then be angry. Elowyn met his eyes. But don't let her control what you do. Kale went still. Don't give her that kind of power over either of us. After a moment, his hands relaxed. You are remarkably wise for 16. I'm a survivor. Elowyn took another bite. There's a difference. They ate quietly for a while. The silence was surprisingly comfortable. Elowyn had imagined royal dinners as formal events with endless rules. This felt like 2 people learning each other. Can I ask you something? Anything. The mate bond. Kale set his fork down. You said it appeared the instant I shifted. How can that happen with someone you don't know? He considered his answer. The bond isn't intellectual recognition. What is it? Soul recognition, perhaps. Kale leaned forward. Your wolf and mine recognized each other as complementary. He searched for an explanation. Imagine 2 pieces of a puzzle fitting so perfectly that you cannot see where one ends and the other begins. What if one piece doesn't want to fit? Kale's smile disappeared. Then the bond aches. For whom? Both. He answered honestly. The bond does not force us together. You can reject it. So can I. What happens? Pain. His voice was quiet. Not necessarily unbearable, but persistent. A constant awareness of what might have existed. Eloin studied him. You already feel that? Every time we're apart. He touched his chest. A low ache. It weakens when we're together. He held her gaze. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty. You deserve to know every consequence before choosing. Eloin thought about the pull she had felt. I feel something too. She lowered her voice. And I don't trust it. Why? How do I know any feeling is real? She set down her fork. What if this is biology manipulating me? What if I would never choose you without it? You cannot know for certain. The answer surprised her. Kale continued. But my mother once told me the bond doesn't create love. He looked toward the window. It creates opportunity. Opportunity? A foundation of compatibility. Love grows only if the people involved choose to build it. Did your parents? Every day. His expression became distant. They argued. They disagreed. They annoyed each other. A faint smile. But every morning, they chose each other again. He looked at her. The bond made connection possible. They made that connection real. Eloin considered the idea. And if I reject you? Kale did not look away. I survive. Just like that? No. His smile was sad. It will probably hurt for a long time. He shrugged slightly. But I survived losing my mother. I survived losing my father. His voice remained steady. I will survive losing you if that is what you choose. The way he dismissed his own suffering made Eloin's eyes burn. I don't want to hurt you. I know. Kale reached across the table. His fingers stopped just before touching hers. But I want you free more than I want myself comfortable. His voice softened. That is what love means to me. Choosing another person's happiness over your own comfort. You don't love me. Eloin whispered it almost defensively. You can't. We just met. You're right. Kale's golden eyes remained on hers. I don't love you. Then he added quietly. Yet. Eloin's breath caught. But I could. His expression was open in a way that frightened her. I can feel the possibility. He smiled faintly. Like a seed waiting for water. A sharp knock broke the moment. Kale straightened. Enter. Commander Lyris stepped inside. Her expression was grim. Your Majesty, we have a situation. Magistra Elena needs you in the council chamber. What happened? A delegation arrived. Lyris looked at Eloin. 6 alphas representing the Southern Alliance. Kale's entire posture changed. They demand an audience. Lyris continued. They also demand to see the Prime Omega. Eloin's stomach tightened. They want proof she exists. Lyris looked at Kale. And proof of the mate bond. Kale stood. Tell Elena I'll meet them in 20 minutes. Then he stopped. Lyris, double Eloin's guard. Already done. No one comes within 50 feet of her quarters without my permission. Lyris nodded and left. Kale turned to Eloin. I'm sorry. I wanted tonight to be peaceful. What is the Southern Alliance? 6 of the strongest packs in the Southern Territories. His jaw tightened. They've spent years demanding greater independence from royal authority. This is about me? This is a power play. Kale moved closer. They're using your existence. Against you? Against everyone. This time he took her hand. The bond warmed instantly. Eloin, the next few days may become politically dangerous. There will be challenges. His thumb moved once against her fingers. People will try to turn you into a piece on their board. She looked at their joined hands. I need you to trust me when I say I will not let anyone hurt you. I do. Kale froze. Eloin realized she meant it. I trust you. Hope flashed across his face. Then remember that. His grip tightened gently. No matter what they say, no matter what they demand. He released her. Remember that I am on your side. Later, Tobias and 4 armed guards escorted Eowyn to her suite. She stood at the windows overlooking Northspire. Somewhere in the palace, 6 powerful alphas were planning how to use her existence. And within days, Eowyn was supposed to decide something that might alter not only her future, but the balance of power throughout the Northern Territories. She pressed her fingertips against the glass. Her faint silver marks reflected back at her. For the first time, she wondered whether leaving would truly be freedom, and whether staying might be the bravest decision of her life. Chapter 6. The Southern Alliance's Challenge. The council chamber was enormous. Silver designs depicting wolf history covered the high walls. An oval table carved from obsidian stood at the center. Chaol sat at its head. His advisors occupied both sides. Eowyn stood to his right in her blue dress, trying to conceal the trembling in her hands. 6 alphas faced them. Their combined power pressed against the room like heat. Their leader was a broad-shouldered man with dark skin and silver threaded through his hair. He smiled at Eowyn. There was no warmth in it. Alpha King Nightborn. His voice was smooth. I am Alpha Zarek of the Sunfire Pack. We appreciate your willingness to receive an unexpected delegation. His eyes moved to Eowyn. And I must admit, the rumors fail to do your Prime Omega justice. He studied her markings. Remarkable. Flattery, Zarek? Magistra Elena's voice cut across the table. How unexpected. Not flattery. Zarek leaned back. Observation. His gaze returned to Chaol. We traveled here to verify what we've heard. And what exactly have you heard? Chaol sounded almost bored. Eowyn had learned enough to recognize danger beneath that calm. That you found your mate. Zarek smiled. That she is Prime Omega. Another alpha spoke. And that you have hidden her inside the capital. A younger alpha leaned forward. We want to see the bond marks. The bond is not complete, Chaol replied. The marks will appear when the claiming occurs. How convenient. The younger alpha's mockery was obvious. An alpha king announces he has found a mate, yet no one has seen proof that she has been marked. Chaol's body tightened beside Eowyn. My word as alpha king is sufficient. Is it? Zarek leaned forward. Because some of us have considered another possibility. Elena's eyes narrowed. What possibility? That the Prime Omega is not actually his mate. Silence hit the room. Zarek continued calmly. Perhaps she is simply useful. He looked directly at Chaol. A convenient story allowing the king to control the most powerful Omega in 3 centuries without politically binding himself. The accusation hung in the chamber. Elena spoke first. An interesting theory. Her voice was ice. Do you possess evidence? We possess skepticism. Zarek smiled. And skepticism can be resolved through proof. Chaol's eyes hardened. What proof? The Prime Omega should be tested. Eowyn felt Chaol's anger before he spoke. Tested how? The traditional method. Zarek gestured. One of his guards placed a vial of thick red liquid on the table. Prime Omega blood reacts uniquely when combined with wolf essence. He tapped the vial. The reaction creates a temporary amplification through which every wolf nearby can sense her nature. Absolutely not. Chaol's answer came instantly. There is no traditional test. His eyes narrowed. You invented this. Zarek smiled. Then you're afraid. I am protecting my mate. Or protecting a lie. Eowyn watched the confrontation unfold. For once, fear did not cloud her understanding. The Southern Alliance was not primarily trying to hurt her. They were attacking Chaol's authority. If he refused the test, they could accuse him of deception. If he accepted it, he allowed rival alphas to dictate royal decisions. Either way, they gained something. Eowyn stepped forward. I'll do it. Chaol turned instantly. Absolutely not. His hand closed gently around her arm. You don't know what that substance is. No. Elowin met his gaze. But I understand what happens if you refuse. His jaw tightened. They're counting on you putting your need to protect me above your political judgment. She turned toward Zarek. What exactly happens during the test? His smile widened. Wise question. He gestured toward the vial. We mix a small amount of your blood with wolf essence. If you are truly prime, your connection to the wolves in this room will amplify temporarily. And then? Everyone feels your power. He spread his hands. No deception becomes possible. Elena leaned forward. And if the test proves she is prime, but fails to prove a mate bond? Zarek's answer was immediate. Then the Alpha King lied. He looked at Kale. And perhaps his fitness to rule deserves examination. Commander Lyris's hand dropped toward her sword. Any accusation that the king is unfit. It's fine. Everyone looked toward Elowin. I'm not afraid of the truth. She turned toward Kale. We are bonded. His eyes widened slightly. If they need proof, let them have it. Kale studied her. Elowin saw the conflict. The Alpha wanted to refuse. The king knew what refusing might cost. Finally, the king won. Proceed. His voice was quiet. Then he looked at Zarek. Carefully. Power filled every word. The Prime Omega remains under my protection. His eyes flashed gold. Any harm done to her will be treated as an act of war. Zarek produced a silver bowl. He poured the red substance into it. Only a little blood. One of his guards offered Elowin a needle. She pricked one finger. 3 drops fell into the bowl. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the reaction exploded. Golden light erupted from the liquid. It pulsed like a living heart. The glow spread outward. Elowin gasped. Every wolf in the room suddenly became distinct inside her awareness. Their strength, their hierarchy, their emotions. She could feel them, and they could feel her. The silver markings across her body ignited. Golden light raced through them. Power surged beneath her skin. Ancient, intoxicating. For the first time, Elowin understood why wars had been fought over Prime Omegas. Then, the light faded. Strength drained from her. Her knees buckled. Kale caught her immediately and pulled her against him. His hand covered the markings protectively. There. His voice became cold enough to freeze the chamber. Your proof. He stared at every Southern Alpha. She is prime. The bond is real. And if I hear one more whisper questioning either fact, I will personally travel to your territories and remind each of you why 43 packs remain united beneath my rule. Silence. Then Zarek began to applaud slowly. Remarkable. He stood. The other alphas followed. Truly remarkable. He bowed. We are satisfied, Alpha King. Your Prime Omega is precisely what you claimed. His expression remained calculating. We look forward to the formal claiming ceremony. The Southern Alliance would be honored to send a representative as a gesture of support. Your support is noted. Kale's voice remained cold, but unnecessary. Zarek raised an eyebrow. The ceremony will be private. Private? He looked almost disappointed. For an event this significant? When the time comes, Kale repeated. The claiming is private. No one challenged him. The Southern Alphas departed with polite promises of cooperation that sounded more threatening than reassuring. As soon as the doors closed, Kale guided Elowin toward a chair. Are you hurt? His hands moved over her arms. Did the test cause pain? Only exhaustion. Elowin accepted water from Elena. What happened to me? Prime Omega manifestation. Elena sat opposite her. The test wasn't traditional. Zarek lied about that. Kale's jaw clenched. Elena continued. But the substance did function as a catalyst. It forced your power to the surface strongly enough for everyone to experience it. That was dangerous. Kale's anger returned. I should never have permitted it. I'm fine. Elowin drank. And now they believe us. They believe more than we wanted them to. Elena looked thoughtful. Zarek will tell the other Southern Alphas exactly how powerful your manifestation was. What changes? Everything. Elena's voice was sober. Some Alphas will see you as a threat. Others, Commander Lyris added bluntly, will try to kidnap you. Elowen stared at her. Some may force you to bear offspring in the hope that your prime strength passes into their bloodline. Lyris looked at Kale. Others may challenge him directly for the right to claim you. Kale's expression became dark. Triple security. Lyris nodded. Possibly quadruple. And Elowen remains within the royal quarters whenever I'm absent. Elowen sat straighter. No. Kale looked at her. No leaving the palace. That isn't necessary. It is. His voice sharpened. You just displayed power in front of 6 of the most ambitious alphas alive. They began calculating how to exploit you before the light even faded. He moved closer. The safest place for you is here. Elowen wanted to argue, but exhaustion hit harder with every breath. The blood test drained you, Elena said. Rest first. Fight with him later. Kale ignored the comment. He ordered a guard to escort Elowen back to her suite and maintain constant watch. As she left, she looked over her shoulder. Kale was already discussing security with Elena and Lyris. The Alpha King had replaced the man who had eaten dinner with her. Elowen reached her room and collapsed onto the bed without changing. Sleep swallowed her. Deep, heavy, almost like drowning. When she woke, the room was dark. Someone was watching her. Her wolf reacted before her mind did. Elowen bolted upright. Her hands began glowing. She reached toward the lamp. A figure emerged from the shadows. Kale. I'm sorry. His hands lifted. I didn't mean to frighten you. Elowen's heart hammered. It's the middle of the night. I know. He stepped closer. Tension lined his shoulders. The bond started aching. Elowen swallowed. It became worse after you collapsed. His voice softened. I needed to see you and know you were all right. I'm fine, just tired. You were incredibly brave today. Kale sat carefully on the edge of the bed. And incredibly reckless. I wasn't hurt. This time, silence passed between them. There will be other challenges, Kale said. Other alphas, other tests. Something troubled entered his eyes. I cannot protect you from everything. Then teach me. Kale looked at her. Teach me to protect myself. Elowen's voice strengthened. Teach me how to use this power. Teach me your world. She hesitated. And teach me what this bond means. His eyes burned in the dark. Not as destiny. She looked down. As a choice. Kale remained still. As something I am actively deciding. His voice became almost a whisper. Are you deciding? I'm considering. Elowen met his gaze. But I need more than 3 days. She touched her chest. I need to know who I am outside this bond. Kale nodded. Then take the time. He offered his hand. When she didn't pull away, he took hers. Warmth moved through the bond. But understand something. His voice carried quiet certainty. I'm all in. However long it takes. He squeezed her hand. Whatever you need to feel safe. Elowen's voice dropped. Even if I leave? Yes. Even if I decide none of this is what I want. Even then. Kale's promise felt immovable. I would rather lose you forever than trap you for one moment. He stood. Elowen tightened her fingers around his hand. Stay. Kale stopped. Just tonight. She hated how vulnerable the words felt. I don't want to be alone. Relief crossed his face. He removed his outer clothing but kept his shirt and trousers. Then he lay beside her. He left space between them. No touching. No demands. Only warmth close enough that she knew he was there. Thank you, Elowen whispered. For what? For not forcing any of this. Silence. Then Kale's voice came softly through the darkness. That is what love does. It gives someone the freedom to leave. His breath warmed the space between them. And prays they choose to stay. They fell asleep without touching. The bond hummed quietly between them. And for the first time Elowyn could remember, she slept without nightmares. Chapter 7. The Second Trial. Elowyn woke alone. The depression in the pillow beside her proved Cale had stayed. Morning light filled the room. Below the windows, the palace courtyard had already come alive with voices, horses, and the endless movement of a kingdom beginning its day. A note waited beside the bed. Cale's handwriting was elegant. He had gone east to settle border disputes and expected to return that evening. In his absence, Magistra Elena would supervise Elowyn's training. The note added one warning. The bond would ache while they were separated. That discomfort was normal. She should acknowledge it rather than fight it. The final line made her read the note 3 times. I'll be counting the hours until I see you again. K. Elowyn pressed the paper against her chest. The ache was already there. Low. Persistent. Like homesickness for a person she barely knew. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Mara entered carrying training clothes. Magistra Elena is waiting whenever you're ready. She laid out soft leather and reinforced fabric. Fair warning, she is demanding. Mara smiled. But she gets results. The training grounds occupied a large courtyard behind the palace. Ancient oaks shaded the area. High walls kept it private. Elena waited at the center in practical clothing, her silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight braid. Without formal robes, she looked smaller than Elowyn remembered. Average height. Not physically imposing. Yet she carried herself like someone who had never doubted her own authority. Elowyn, she gave a small smile. Good. We have too much to teach and not enough time. Cale said you would train me. Elowyn looked around. In what? Everything. Elena studied her. Your wolf is 16 years old, but she has never been allowed to use her body. She walked around Elowyn once. That means considerable power and almost no discipline. Elowyn frowned. The king already said I'll be confined inside the palace. The king is protective. Elena's mouth tightened. And currently foolish. Elowyn blinked. You can say that? I've been saying worse to him since he was a child. Elena folded her arms. Confinement may prevent some challenges. It also makes you dependent. She gestured toward the training yard. I would rather teach you to defend yourself than teach you to hide. Her expression sharpened. Show me your partial shift. Elowyn hesitated. Then she reached for her wolf. The connection came almost instantly. The wolf stretched inside her awareness. Power rushed through her. The transformation began. This time there was no agony. No violent cracking of bones. Her body changed smoothly. Claws formed. Silver markings ignited across her skin. She remained mostly human, capable of speaking and thinking clearly, while wolf strength filled her muscles. Elena nodded. Good. She examined Elowyn's hands. Much smoother than your first transformation. Then she stepped back. Shift into human form. Elowyn reversed the process. Seconds later, she stood normally again, breathing hard, but not exhausted. Excellent. Elena smiled. Now we begin the unpleasant part. What part? Combat. For the next 6 hours, Elena taught Elowyn to fight. Not the desperate brawling she had learned from surviving Silverpine. This was disciplined violence, precise, structured, tactical. Elena showed her leverage, balance, how to predict a strike from shoulder movement, how to turn an opponent's strength against them. The most common alpha mistake, Elena explained after one brutal demonstration, is believing physical dominance guarantees victory. Sweat ran down her face. It doesn't. She shifted position. A clever fighter can defeat a stronger opponent through biomechanics and psychology. They began sparring gently. Elena held back. She corrected Elowyn's feet, her shoulders, her breathing. Then the intensity increased. Elowyn discovered something shocking. She could almost keep up. Her wolf-supplied reflexes she had never possessed. Her muscles moved faster, stronger. Instinct warned her before attacks came. Combined with Elena's instruction, that instinct became useful rather than chaotic. Elowyn managed to land a hit. Elena smiled. Better. She attacked again. Again. By the time they stopped, Elowyn was soaked in sweat and covered in small bruises. Every muscle hurt. She had never felt better. For the first time, strength belonged to her. Not something used against her. Not something she had to fear. Servants brought water, bread, and fresh fruit. Elowyn drank almost desperately. How long have you trained? 40 years. Elena sat beside her. I was never going to become an alpha. Why? My wolf is strong. Elena shrugged. Not strong enough for alpha rank. She smiled. So I became valuable in ways most alphas underestimate. Combat? Combat. Politics. Strategy. Negotiation. Her eyes gleamed. I am probably more powerful than half the alphas in these territories. Elowyn laughed. Just not in a way they understand. Exactly. Elena drank some water. Which is one reason Kale listens to me. Only one? The greater reason is trust. Elena looked toward the palace. I have spent years earning his. Then she turned toward Elowyn. Speaking of Kale, Elowyn became wary. What about him? How do you feel? Elowyn thought about the previous night, the empty space Kale had deliberately left between them. Confused. That's reasonable. He isn't what I thought an alpha would be. Elowyn picked at the bread. He is strong, sometimes frightening. She remembered Royce's ribs cracking. But he is kind, and when I speak, he listens. Elena's expression softened. His mother taught him well. She taught him about choice. She taught him that power without wisdom is violence. Elena stared into the distance. That an alpha's duty is protection and guidance, not domination. She became quiet. After she died, I made it my mission to keep those lessons alive. Elowyn hesitated. Do you think he loves me? The question escaped before she could stop it. Sorry. It isn't inappropriate. Elena smiled faintly. And no. Elowyn felt an unexpected drop in her stomach. Not yet. Elena's smile deepened. But he's falling. How can you know? I have known him most of his life. She stood. I saw how he looked at you. Elena offered her hand. And I watched him move half the kingdom to ensure your safety. Elowyn took the hand. Come, you need to wash before tonight's council. Elowyn stared. I'm attending? Yes. Elena began walking. Word of your manifestation has already spread. Already? By tomorrow, every important pack will know the Alpha King's mate is Prime Omega. Is that good? Elena gave her a sideways look. Complicated. Of course. For Kale, it brings prestige. No Alpha King has bonded a Prime Omega in living memory. Elena's expression became more serious. It also means every unmated Alpha will be thinking about challenging for you. And the mated ones? Some will worry how their partners react to your scent and power. Elowyn sighed. Complicated. Very. The evening council was smaller. Only Kale's inner circle attended. Perhaps 12 people. Elena sat on Kale's right. Elowyn was placed on his left. Kale looked exhausted. His shoulders were tense. Then he saw Elowyn. Some of that tension disappeared. He reached beneath the table and squeezed her hand once. The brief touch felt intimate and possessive. Border report. Kale turned toward a grizzled advisor. Ironwood and Silvercrest reached a compromise. The advisor checked his notes. They'll share the tributary. Fishing rights are divided equally. Make it official. Kale turned. Rogue activity? A scarred woman answered. Still increasing in the south. She listed the incidents. 3 attacks on lone travelers. 2 cases of rogues testing organized pack borders. Kale frowned. That pattern isn't normal. It isn't. The woman leaned forward. The attacks appear coordinated. Rogues don't coordinate. These do. She held his gaze. Someone is directing them. Silence fell across the chamber. Suspects? The Southern Alliance. Elena's answer came immediately. A younger advisor protested. That is speculation. For now. Elena looked at him. Give me 2 weeks. Her voice became cold. I'll have documentation. Kale glanced toward Elowen. She caught it. Why does this involve me? She asked. Rogue attacks in the South have nothing to do with Prime Omegas. Directly, no. Kale leaned back. Politically, yes. He explained the danger. If the Southern Alliance was deliberately allowing or encouraging instability, then the attacks were probably part of something larger. A challenge to your authority? Likely. But you're Alpha King. Elowen frowned. Wouldn't challenging you be suicide? Not if they believe they can win. Elena's voice became quiet. And not if they obtain an advantage Kale does not possess. Everyone looked toward Elowen. She understood. Me. No one denied it. If another Alpha controlled your prime amplification, Elena explained, his strength might become enough to challenge Kale directly. Elowen felt sick. They're going to try to take me. Yes. Kale did not soften the answer. That is why I am increasing your protection. He turned toward her. From now on, you don't leave this palace with fewer than 10 guards. Elowen's mouth fell open. When you travel, you use sealed royal carriages. That isn't living. It is temporary. It's imprisonment. Temporary imprisonment, Kale corrected, until we remove the threat. How long? As long as necessary, Elena answered. Elowen stared at both of them. What advantage do we have? Kale's response was simple. Me. Then he added, the loyalty of the other territories. His gaze held hers. And you. Something inside Elowen snapped. I am not a weapon. Kale went still. I'm not a tool for your politics. I know. No, you just said I am one of your advantages. You are a factor whether either of us likes it or not. His voice remained gentle but honest. Your existence is political now. Elowen's hands tightened. Your safety is strategic. Your power affects every calculation these alphas make. Each word struck harder than the last. Choice. Freedom. Partnership. Suddenly all of it felt hollow. I need air. Elowen stood. Elowen stood. Elowen. I need to leave this room. She pulled away when Kale reached for her. Then she ran. Guards tried to follow. Anger made her faster. She reached a balcony high above the city. Power flickered around her hands. The silver markings beneath her sleeves glowed. Kale appeared several minutes later, alone. I'm sorry. She did not turn. I should have prepared you before that meeting. I'm not only angry at you. Elowen gripped the railing. She was angry at circumstances, at her blood, at every alpha who could turn her existence into politics without her permission. I wanted time. Her voice broke. I wanted to understand who I am. She looked back at him. Instead, I'm trapped in a palace while strangers decide how to use me. Then leave. Elowen froze. What? Leave. Kale stepped closer. I meant every promise I made. His eyes were sincere. If you want to go, I will arrange protection, money, somewhere safe. But having me here strengthens you. Yes. You would lose that advantage. Yes. Kale didn't hesitate. Elowen stared. Then why let me go? Because every time I see you trapped and miserable, something inside me breaks. His voice went quiet. My mother taught me that loving someone means choosing their freedom over your comfort. He extended one hand. This is the first time I truly understand what she meant. Elowen looked at him. The conflict in his face was real. The king needed her. The man wanted her free. Slowly, she gave him her hand. I don't want to leave. Relief flooded his face. No? No. Elowyn drew a breath. But I refuse to remain only your protected mate. Kale listened. I want to become part of the solution. What do you want? Elowyn looked over North Spire. I want to know what the Southern Alliance is planning. Her voice strengthened. I want to help stop them. Then she faced him. And I want to do it as your partner, not your possession. Kale remained silent. Then he pulled her gently against him. Elena was right. About what? You're going to change everything. Elowyn rested her head against his chest. Is that bad? No. His hand settled over her markings. It might be what I've been waiting for. He looked toward the city. A reason to believe strength and compassion can exist together. They stood there as darkness spread across North Spire. The bond between them hummed with every shared breath. Elowyn still did not know whether she loved Kale. She did not know how much of the attraction came from her choice, and how much came from the bond. But one thing had changed. She wanted to find out. For now, that was enough. Chapter 8. The Conspiracy Revealed. The war room lay beneath the palace. Carved directly into stone, it was covered with maps, troop movements, and strategic displays from every region of the Northern Territories. Elowyn was summoned before dawn. She was instructed to tell no one where she was going. Elena was already there. So was Kale. Several advisors Elowyn had never met surrounded the central table. Documents covered its surface, payment records, letters, supply lists, troop manifests, evidence. The Southern Alliance isn't merely taking advantage of instability. Elena pointed toward several locations on a map. They are creating it. She marked 3 positions. Rogue groups are being placed here, here, and here. Elowyn studied the map. All close to trade routes. Exactly. Elena looked at Kale. The Alliance supplies them. Food, weapons, information. For what purpose? An advisor asked. Control. Elena's answer was immediate. Disrupt enough trade. Create enough fear. Then argue the central government has failed to maintain order. Another advisor understood. They intervene. Yes. Elena moved another marker. They claim they're restoring stability in their own territories. Once that intervention is accepted, they expand outward. A slow coup. Exactly. Kale stared at the map. Elena's expression became darker. But that is not the worst part. She placed a broken seal letter on the table. We intercepted this. Elowyn leaned closer. The message was explicit. The Prime Omega represented an unprecedented strategic opportunity. If the Alliance could obtain her cooperation, or her body if cooperation failed, Prime amplification might allow one of their alphas to match Kale. Their calculations gave them a 67% probability of victory in direct combat. They recommended acting within the lunar cycle. Elowyn's skin went cold. They're planning to kidnap me. Within 28 days. Elena nodded. Operatives are probably already inside North Spire. Kale's hands tightened on the table. They'll wait for a security failure. Or create one, Elena added. What do we do? One advisor answered first. Attack. Everyone looked toward him. We know who is responsible. Send forces south. Destroy the Alliance before they move. That starts a war. Another advisor shook his head. And not every Southern pack supports them. If the Crown attacks first, neutral packs may join the Alliance. Kale remained silent. Elowyn saw the burden settle onto him. Every option involved lives. Then Elena spoke. There is a third choice. Kale raised his eyes. Explain. We bait them. Silence. Elena pointed toward Elowyn. We let them believe her security is failing. Kale's face immediately hardened. Not actually failing. Elena continued before he could object. We stage vulnerability. How? An accident. A predictable routine. fewer visible guards. Her eyes gleamed with calculation. The operatives believe they found an opportunity. They attempt the capture. And then, we catch them in the act. Elena tapped the intercepted documents. We arrest them, seize their communications, and trace the order to Alliance leadership. Kale's voice became dangerous. And if your staged capture becomes real, it won't. Elena spoke with absolute confidence. Elowen will be surrounded by our best warriors every second. Everyone looked toward Elowen. She understood. You want me to be bait? Yes. Elena held her gaze. But only if you agree. Her voice softened. This decision belongs to you. Elowen looked at Kale. She expected him to refuse. Instead, she found something else in his expression. Fear, but also respect. He knew what he had spent days telling her. Choice meant nothing if he took it away the moment he disliked her decision. What would I have to do? Elena explained. For 1 week, Elowen's visible security would slowly decrease. Her movements would become predictable. She would make public visits, appear frustrated with palace confinement. Eventually, the Alliance would see a pattern, and then they would strike. The danger is minimal, Elena said, but not zero. Another advisor leaned forward. They might also recognize the trap. They won't if she sells it. Elena looked at Elowen. Your fear has to look real. Elowen almost laughed. That shouldn't be difficult. You need to look like someone who feels trapped. Elena's eyes remained on hers. Someone considering escape. Elowen understood. For an entire week, she would live knowing an attempted kidnapping was coming. She would never know exactly when. I'll do it. Kale inhaled. Elowen, you taught me I deserve agency. She looked at him. You told me I should become part of the solution. Her voice remained steady. This is me choosing how. Kale watched her for a long time. Then he reached across the table and took her hand. You are either the bravest person I have ever met, he exhaled, or completely insane. Probably both. Elena smiled. Then, we begin. The next 7 days became the longest week of Elowen's life. During daylight, she performed her role. She complained about confinement, asked Kale for more freedom, ventured farther from the palace, accepted fewer visible guards. Part of it required no acting. She truly was tired of being watched. At night, she and Kale sought each other. They were not yet formally mated, but the fear surrounding them made emotional distance increasingly impossible. Their physical intimacy became another choice, a way of reminding each other that the bond might have brought them together, but staying together was something they continued choosing. With each night, Elowen felt something deeper growing beneath attraction. One evening she lay against Kale in the darkness. I'm scared. I know. He pulled her closer. But you're safe. What if Elena is wrong? Kale's body tightened. What if the Alliance really takes me? His answer came without hesitation. Then I burn the world until I find you. Elowen looked up. Kale. Every territory. His eyes burned gold. Every pack. His voice became deadly. Every alpha standing between you and me. I would level civilization itself before leaving you in their hands. The possessiveness should have frightened her. Instead, it anchored her. Whatever happened, someone would come. By the 7th day, the tension had become almost unbearable. That morning, Elena intercepted the final message. The operation would begin the next day. The primary opportunity would be Elowen's market visit at noon. Shortly before noon, Elowen entered the palace market in simple clothes. Only 2 guards appeared to accompany her. Both were disguised as merchants. Both were warriors trained personally by Elena. More royal guards blended into the crowd as shopkeepers and customers. Elowen walked among jewelry stalls, fabric merchants, fresh produce. She tried to look ordinary. Her silver markings glowed faintly beneath her sleeves. Then the air changed. Eluin felt wolves moving with coordinated intent. Predators. 5. 2 men, 3 women. All trained. All circling her. No uniforms. No visible symbols. One man moved forward. Eluin recognized him from intelligence reports. Marcus, one of the Alliance's trusted operatives. Prime Omega. His voice remained low enough not to panic civilians. You are coming with us. He stepped closer. Don't resist, and no one gets hurt. This was the moment. Eluin had been trained to fight, but the plan required her to appear frightened. She backed away. Her eyes widened. Silver light began to emerge beneath her skin. No. Marcus's expression hardened. Now. Elena's trap closed. Royal guards appeared from every direction, weapons drawn. Instead of attacking immediately, they formed a barrier and slowly compressed the space around the operatives. Marcus went pale. His eyes searched for an escape. There was none. The 5 operatives were outnumbered roughly 5 to 1. Elena stepped from the crowd. Her smile was cold. I assume you have a message you would like us to deliver to your employers. Marcus made one desperate decision. He lunged for Eluin. Elena intercepted him. She caught his wrist. Twisted. Marcus screamed. A hidden dagger fell from his hand. The other operatives attacked. Royal guards moved. The battle lasted only a few minutes. When it ended, all 5 operatives were restrained. Their weapons were confiscated. So were their communication crystals. Eluin stood at the center of the chaos. Her body shook. Her markings blazed. Her wolf paced beneath her skin, demanding violence. Eluin. Elena appeared beside her. Easy. Eluin struggled to breathe. You're safe. They were really going to take me. Yes. Elena did not lie. They were. She touched Eluin's arm. But they failed. The prisoners were marched away. The market slowly returned to normal. A much larger escort accompanied Eluin back to the palace. Kale waited inside the war room. The instant he saw her, he crossed the room in 3 strides. He pulled her against him. His entire body trembled. Are you hurt? No. Eluin buried herself against his chest. It worked. Kale closed his eyes briefly. Then the king returned. Bring me a communication crystal. His voice became cold. I want the Southern Alliance leadership contacted immediately. His advisors straightened. They have 1 hour to dismantle every rogue operation and surrender everyone involved to royal justice. If they refuse, we need strategy, Elena interrupted. Kale turned. Harsh demands will push them directly into open rebellion. We have proof. We have operatives. Kale pointed toward the prison levels. They can testify about the rogue networks. We have documents proving they conspired to kidnap the Prime Omega. His eyes flashed. What more leverage do we need? They know we have it. Elena remained calm. They'll deny authorization. They'll claim the operatives acted independently. Lawyers become involved. The crisis becomes a political stalemate. Kale's expression darkened. Unless? Elena smiled. Amnesty. Kale stared at her. No. We offer immunity for previous offenses in exchange for a full confession. No. And cooperation dismantling every rogue network they created. They plotted to destabilize my kingdom and kidnap my mate. His voice rose. They do not receive amnesty. They deserve punishment. Elena did not disagree. But punishment alone does not solve the southern instability. She pointed toward the map. If we crush them, another faction may replace them. Kale remained silent. The Alliance exploited chaos because they believed central authority ignored southern concerns. Elena continued. Give them equal participation in rebuilding their territories. She looked at Kale. In exchange, they dismantle the rogue groups and submit to a cooperative structure. One advisor leaned forward. You want to reward treason? I want to end it. Elena's voice became sharp. Kale turned toward Elowen. What do you think? She blinked. You're asking me? Yes. Elowen considered everything. I think Elena is right. Kale's eyebrow lifted. Punishment feels satisfying. Elowen chose her words carefully. Amnesty solves more problems. She looked toward the map. But betrayal after amnesty cannot be treated lightly. How lightly? Elowen's voice hardened. They need to understand that violating the agreement means total destruction. A slow smile crossed Kale's face. There she is. He turned toward the advisors. Draft the offer. Kale pointed at the Southern Territories. They receive equal representation in royal decisions. He continued. In exchange, every alliance pact pledges loyalty to the crown and full cooperation in security matters. They may see mercy as weakness, one advisor warned. Let them. Kale's answer was calm. In 3 months, if rogue networks are gone and the South is prospering, they will understand. His hand rested beside Elowen's. Power is not always domination. Elena nodded. Sometimes mercy requires more strength. As the advisors began discussing terms, Kale pulled Elowen aside. I'm proud of you. I was terrified. That doesn't make you less brave. He touched her markings. It is what makes bravery real. Elowen smiled faintly. You changed where this crisis was heading. Kale looked toward the council. Without you, we might be preparing for war. I didn't do anything heroic. You stayed. His voice softened. Heroes are frightened people who choose to stay when running would be easier. Then he kissed her. Not as an alpha claiming an omega. Not as a king securing political power. As Kale, Elowen kissed him back. And somewhere during that kiss, she understood something that had been growing for days. She no longer thought about leaving. She wanted to stay. Not because of the bond. Not because of the crown. Not because anyone required it. Because she chose him. Chapter 9. The Claiming Ceremony. 28 days. Ancient wolf law required a prime omega to receive 28 days after awakening before a formal claiming could occur. Elowen had reached the 27th day. Northspire was in controlled chaos. Kale had originally insisted that the ceremony remain private. Circumstances had changed. The Southern Alliance accepted the amnesty agreement. The captured operatives were tried and convicted. Their testimony exposed the conspiracy and helped dismantle the rogue operation. With the immediate threat removed, packs across the territories wanted to celebrate. The private claiming became something much larger. The evening before the ceremony, Elowen stood in Kale's chambers. Not the guest suite. She had been sleeping in his room for the previous week. A dress waited for her. White silk shimmered as though light lived inside it. Wolves, stars, and moons were embroidered across the fabric. A delicate crown of silver and moonstone rested nearby. Elena appeared in the doorway. You look terrified. I am. Elowen stared at the crown. This is permanent. Not entirely. Elowen looked over. The bond can be severed if both parties consent. Elena's voice became gentle. It would hurt you both badly. She smiled. But I don't believe you want that. No. Elowen stared at the dress again. That is what frightens me. She laughed softly, almost in disbelief. A month ago, I scrubbed floors at Silverpine. She turned toward Elena. Tomorrow I become queen. Her voice lowered. And I'm choosing it because I love him. Elena smiled. How did this happen? You met someone who saw your worth. Elena walked closer. And you allowed yourself to be seen. Mara entered with several servants. They prepared Elowen carefully. Her dark hair was arranged with moonstone pins. Makeup emphasized rather than concealed the silver markings. Then they helped her into the white dress. When Elowen faced the mirror, she did not recognize the frightened orphan. The woman in the reflection looked powerful, Royal. A queen. Stunning, Mara whispered. She smiled. Kale is going to forget how to speak. Elowin's nervous laugh escaped. I hope so. The ceremony took place in the palace's grand hall. Marble columns were carved into wolves mid-leap. Every major alpha in the Northern Territories had been invited. Representatives from neighboring human kingdoms also attended. Thousands of witnesses. Elowin waited in the antechamber and tried to control her breathing. Tobias appeared in formal clothing. He looked nearly as nervous as she felt. It's time. He swallowed. Are you ready? No. Elowin smiled. But I doubt waiting another year would make me ready. The doors opened. Music filled the hall. Every conversation stopped. Elowin entered. White flowers lined the aisle. At the far end stood Kale. Formal black and silver robes covered him. The Alpha King's insignia rested across his chest. A black metal crown set with moonstones framed his dark hair. Then his golden eyes found her. The bond flared. Heat swept through Elowin. Kale's expression transformed. Wonder, desire, and something she could now recognize without fear. Love. Elowin reached him. Kale took both her hands. Hi. The word was whispered only for her. Despite thousands of witnesses, Elowin smiled. Hi. For one heartbeat, there was no kingdom, no politics. Only them. An elderly ceremony master stepped forward. Silver hair framed a face marked by age and authority. We gather to witness the claiming of Prime Omega Elowin by Alpha King Kale Nightborn. He addressed the hall. Once marked, their bond will join them in perpetuity, unless both willingly consent to severance. Kale turned fully toward Elowin. His hands tightened around hers. Elowin. His voice carried through the hall. I offer you my loyalty, my protection, my love. His eyes held hers. And my partnership. Elowin's throat tightened. I ask you to stand beside me as queen. Kale's voice grew stronger. Not behind me as a possession. I ask you to challenge me when I am wrong. A faint smile appeared. To support me when I am right. He drew one breath. And to build whatever future comes next with me. His gaze softened. Not from duty. From choice. Elowin fought tears. I accept. Her voice shook. Then strengthened. I choose you, Kale. She looked directly into his eyes. Not because of the bond. Not because of your crown. Not because destiny says I should. She smiled through the emotion. I choose you because you saw value in me before I could see it myself. Kale's eyes shone. You gave me agency when you had enough power to take it away. Her voice lowered. You loved me, even when I was afraid of you. She squeezed his hands. I want to stand beside you. As your partner. Your equal. Your queen. The ceremony master nodded. Then complete the marking. Kale's wolf rose near the surface. His fangs extended. He waited. Elowin nodded. Only then did he lean toward her shoulder. His bite landed just above her heart. Pain flashed sharply. Then heat followed. Pleasure moved through the bond. At the same moment, Elowin's own wolf rose completely into her awareness. Her fangs extended. She found the place between Kale's neck and shoulder. Then she marked him in return. The instant her fangs broke his skin, the bond changed. Lightning. Fire. Every nerve in Elowin's body seemed connected to Kale. His emotions rushed into her. Joy. Relief. Love so powerful it nearly overwhelmed her. She could not hear his thoughts as words, but she felt his intentions, his certainty, his devotion. Silver marks appeared on Elowin. Dark marks formed on Kale. 2 matching seals. The grand hall erupted. Applause. Cheers. Wolves howling outside throughout the city. Elowin barely heard them. She looked only at Kale. For most of her life, she had been called half of something, half human, half wolf, incomplete, broken. Now she felt whole, not because Kale completed her, because she had finally accepted every part of herself. I love you. Kale's voice shook. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing me. Elowen smiled through tears. I love you too. She meant every word. The newly bonded Alpha King and Prime Omega Queen were presented to the territories. Celebrations continued for hours. Eventually, mercifully, they were allowed to leave. Back inside their shared chambers, Elowen suddenly became shy. The completed bond had erased many emotional barriers. Physical intimacy still felt vulnerable. Second thoughts? Kale sensed her hesitation. No, Elowen answered immediately. Just nervous. She looked down. This is the first time intimacy feels completely like my choice. Then we go slowly. Kale removed her crown carefully. We move at your pace. He loosened the pins from her hair. And if you want to stop, we stop. They approached each other without urgency. Nothing needed to be proven. Nothing needed to be taken. Their intimacy was gentle and deliberate, built on mutual trust rather than obligation. For Elowen, the completed bond made the experience more than physical. She felt known. Kale understood her fear, her scars, her hopes, the parts of herself she still struggled to accept, and his love included all of them. Later, Elowen rested against his chest. Tell me something real. Kale's hand moved slowly over her markings. I'm terrified. Elowen looked up. Of what? Failing you. He stared at the ceiling. Of getting this wrong. His voice became quieter. Of becoming like my father after my mother died. Letting fear or grief consume everything. You won't. How do you know? Because you're aware of it. Elowen touched his chest. And because you're willing to work. Kale smiled faintly. Is that love? Maybe. She considered it. For us, I think love is awareness, work, and choosing each other every day when choosing would be easier to avoid. She became thoughtful. My mother told me I was special. Kale listened. I thought she was only trying to comfort me. Elowen touched the moonstone pendant that had eventually been returned to her, but perhaps she was right. Because you're Prime Omega? No. Elowen smiled. Because I became brave enough to let someone love me. Kale kissed her forehead. You are the strongest person I know. I'm terrified. So am I. Elowen laughed. I don't know how to be queen. Neither did I know how to be king. You grew up here. That didn't make me ready. Kale touched her cheek. We learn. Elena will probably terrify me. She terrifies everyone. Elowen smiled. Over the next 3 days, being queen became real. Meetings, protocol lessons, history, introductions to diplomats from across the territories. People constantly wanted something. A blessing, an opinion, a few minutes of her attention. But some moments mattered. A mother brought a sick child and asked Elowen for a blessing. A young wolf newly awakened to her abilities asked for advice. A human diplomat wanted to understand wolf culture. Elowen discovered she was good at listening. Titles mattered less to her than people. She had spent 16 years at the bottom of a hierarchy. She knew what it felt like when powerful people stopped seeing the person beneath rank. So she listened. She offered mercy when possible. Strength when necessary. One evening, Elena watched her finish another meeting. You're going to be a good queen. Elowen laughed tiredly. I'm improvising. Better than good. Elena smiled. Exceptional. I only do what seems right. That is exactly why. On the third evening, a message arrived. Silverpine Orphanage requested an audience. Elowen's first reaction was to refuse. Then she remembered something Kale had taught her. Running from the past did not erase it. She agreed. The meeting took place inside a formal chamber. Guards remained nearby. Kale stood beside her. Delphine entered first. Elowen almost did not recognize her. The woman seemed smaller, older, less frightening. Vivian followed. Her golden beauty had not disappeared, yet here, beneath the palace lights, the arrogance no longer made her seem powerful. Your Majesty. Delphine forced the title through tight lips. We came to offer our congratulations on your claiming. Elowen studied the woman who had controlled 16 years of her life. She expected anger. Instead, she felt pity. Delphine had built such a small world around cruelty that she had never understood anything beyond it. Thank you. Elowen kept her voice formal. I hope Silverpine is well. Vivian shifted uncomfortably. We wanted... She swallowed. We wanted to apologize. The words sounded forced. Elowen understood why. They had not come because guilt suddenly transformed them. They came because the girl they abused now wore a crown. She could humiliate them, punish them, destroy their lives with a sentence. Instead, Elowen felt only sadness. I forgive you. Delphine's face changed. Elowen continued. I forgave you when I stopped allowing your cruelty to decide who I was. Delphine flushed. She had expected rage, or revenge, perhaps even pleading for acknowledgement. Not this. The orphanage will receive increased royal funding. Delphine blinked. Elowen raised one hand before she could speak. Not because you deserve it. Her voice became firm. Because the children living there do. They deserve better food, better care, and choices I never had. After Delphine and Vivian left, Cale pulled Elowen against him. That was generous. Strategic. He smiled. How? If I pretend they never hurt me, I lie. If... She rested against him. If I spend the rest of my life trying to punish them, they still control me. And forgiveness? Means I decide when their influence ends. Cale kissed her hair. My brilliant queen. That night, the reality of her life settled over Elowen. She had power, love, purpose, a place. But every gift came with responsibility. Thousands of wolves would now bring problems to her. Cale expected her partnership. The territories expected leadership. What are you thinking? Cale felt her tension through the bond. Everything. Elowen exhaled. It's too much sometimes. I know. He pulled her closer. But you don't carry it alone. I won't be the queen people expect. Good. Elowen looked at him. I'll make mistakes. Definitely. She hit his chest lightly. Cale laughed. You come from outside this entire system. His expression became serious. That may be exactly what we need. He continued. You see things those of us raised inside the hierarchy stopped noticing. Elowen remembered the girl scrubbing Silverpine's floors. That girl could never have imagined any of this. She believed status determined value. She believed belonging depended on blood. She believed kindness was weakness because cruel people always seemed to possess the power. Yet that frightened girl had done one thing right. She had run. She had walked into the unknown rather than surrender the rest of her life. Thank you, Elowen whispered. For what? For seeing me. She looked into his golden eyes. For giving me choices. Her fingers traced his bond mark. For loving me with my scars instead of pretending they aren't there. Cale tightened his arms. Thank you for trusting me. His voice softened. For teaching me strength doesn't need cruelty. They held each other as the night deepened. Their bond was no longer merely magical. It was chosen, tested, earned. Across Northspire, people had already begun telling the story. The half-blood girl who had awakened as Prime. The unwanted orphan who became queen. But Elowen knew the story was not about winning a crown. It was about finally understanding that courage could change what power meant. And her legend had only begun. Chapter 10. The New Era. 6 months later, The northern territories barely resembled the kingdom Elowin had first entered. The rogue networks that once threatened the south had been dismantled. But rather than simply executing every rogue who surrendered, Elowin supported a new initiative, the Redemption Program. Former rogues were offered a route back into society. Training in trades, housing assistance, counseling for wolves traumatized by years of isolation. Some refused. They disappeared into the wilderness and rejected organized pack life. Many accepted. For them, it was the first genuine second chance they had ever received. Even the Southern Alliance changed. The amnesty agreement forced its leadership to dismantle the rogue operations. In return, Southern packs gained greater representation in royal governance. To everyone's surprise, former enemies became useful allies. Trade between regions increased by 40%. Pack conflicts dropped dramatically. The territories prospered. Elowin stood on a palace balcony looking over North Spire. One hand rested on the small swell of her abdomen. The pregnancy had surprised both of them. Apparently the mate bond followed its own schedule. Neither Elowin nor Kale complained. Still overwhelmed? Kale's voice came from behind her. His arms settled around her carefully. Not overwhelmed. Elowin leaned back against him. Reflecting. Dangerous activity. She smiled. 6 months ago, I believed this palace would become another prison. Her hand covered his. I thought choosing the bond meant giving away my freedom. And now I'm about to bring a child into a world that is better than the one I knew. Kale kissed her hair. Because of you. Because of us. Elowin corrected him automatically. You. Elena. Our advisors. Everyone who accepted the risk of doing things differently. Kale laughed softly. Still refusing credit. I'm learning. Very slowly. The insecurity Silverpine had carved into her had faded. It had not vanished entirely. Some wounds healed slowly. Kale eventually stepped away. Come. Where? Someone wants to meet you. He led Elowin through the palace to a smaller chamber. Elena waited inside, beside a young woman Elowin had never seen. The girl looked about 17. Dark hair, frightened eyes, and faint silver marks pulsing beneath her skin. Elowin's breath caught. Another Prime Omega? Not Prime. Elena shook her head. But unusual. She looked toward the young woman. An Omega with strong empathic abilities. The girl lowered her eyes. She was trapped inside a brutal pack. Her alpha intended to force her into an early bond with another alpha who had already been abusing her. The girl flinched. Elowin immediately remembered herself in the forest. Confused. Terrified. Surrounded by people who knew more about her power than she did. She moved slowly. What's your name? Lyra. The word was barely a whisper. I'm Elowin. She sat so their eyes were level. And I know what it feels like when people treat you like property instead of a person. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. I know what it feels like to think your choices are suffering or death. Elowin reached out but did not touch her yet. There is another choice. Lyra looked up. You get to choose. I have nowhere to go. Tears ran down her face. No family, no money. If I leave my pack, I become rogue. No. Elowin's answer was simple. You come here. Lyra stared. You stay inside the palace until you feel safe. Elowin continued. You learn what your abilities are. You learn what they can do. Her voice softened. And you learn what you are worth. Lyra's lips trembled. Then what? Whatever you choose. Elowin smiled. College if you want an education. A craft if you prefer a trade. If one day you meet someone and decide you want a mate and a family, then you can choose that too. She finally offered her hand. But it will be your choice. Lyra looked at the hand as if she could not believe it existed. Really? Really? Elowin waited. Eventually, Lyra took it. We now have an entire program for wolves escaping abusive packs. She explained the support. Housing, education, counseling, legal protection. The laws changed too. Elowen's expression hardened. If an alpha touches you without consent, the crown has authority to intervene. Elena smiled. She's caused a small revolution. Kale leaned against the wall. Equal rights reforms, consent laws, education available to young wolves regardless of rank. The older alphas hate it, Elena added. Kale smiled. The younger wolves love it. They're tired of being told natural strength automatically creates moral authority. Lyra looked between them. Can all of this really work? It already is. Elowen squeezed her hand. Slowly. There is resistance. She smiled. But every time an alpha chooses cooperation over domination, we prove something. What? That the old system was never inevitable. Elowen looked toward Kale. It was only the system everyone had stopped imagining alternatives to. Over the following weeks, Lyra settled into palace life. Elowen became her mentor. She helped Lyra understand that empathic ability was not a curse. Used carefully, it could help her connect deeply with others. Her Omega nature did not make her valuable because someone powerful could exploit it. It gave her another way to strengthen a community. Meanwhile, Elowen's pregnancy progressed. As the child grew, one thought returned constantly. Her son or daughter would never grow up inside the world she had known. Whether the child became Alpha, Omega, or something between traditional roles, that child would have choices. Agency. The right to reject traditions that did not serve them. One evening, Elowen sat in the royal gardens with Elena. Sunset painted the sky gold and crimson. Elena looked at her growing abdomen. Do you ever regret staying? Elowen considered the question. Every day. Elena laughed. That wasn't the answer I expected. There are days I want to run. Elowen smiled tiredly. Sometimes every decision feels too important. Millions of lives are affected by what happens in these rooms. And yet you remain. Because leaving wouldn't actually make me free. Elowen looked across the garden. I would spend the rest of my life wondering what I could have changed. She touched her stomach. I'm bringing someone new into this world. Her voice became quiet. I want that child to live somewhere power comes with responsibility instead of privilege. Elena smiled. Your mother would be proud. Elowen touched the moonstone pendant at her neck. After the claiming, she had the stone reset into a proper necklace. She still wore it every day. I think she would. She looked down at the pendant. She said I would understand when the time came. Do you? I think so. What was your power meant for? Elowen considered the question. Not domination. She looked at Elena. Transformation. Change. She remembered arriving at Northspire. I was afraid of everything. Kale? Him most of all. Elena laughed. I was afraid of my own power. Afraid I didn't deserve any of this. Elowen smiled. I eventually realized everyone is frightened. Even alphas? Especially alphas. She looked toward the palace. Anyone with real responsibility eventually wonders if they're good enough. So what do we do about it? We stop pretending fear means weakness. Elowen answered carefully. We build systems that assume people are imperfect. We make places where people can ask for help. And we teach them vulnerability does not cancel strength. Elena squeezed Elowen's hand. You are going to become a legend. Elowen groaned. I don't want to be a legend. What do you want? To be someone who made things better. 3 months later, Elowen gave birth to twins. A son and a daughter. The boy had his father's dark hair. His golden eyes immediately revealed considerable alpha potential. The girl had Elowen's dark hair. Faint silver markings already glowed along her skin. An Omega. And even as a newborn, her strength was unmistakable. Kale held both children. Tears ran openly down his face. Elowen had never seen the Alpha King look so completely overwhelmed. We need names. She smiled weakly from the bed. Kale looked at their son. Alistair. Eloin understood. Your father. Kale nodded. I want him to remember what loss taught us. His voice became quiet. That we fight for what matters while we still have it. Eloin looked toward their daughter. And her? That belongs to you. Kale carefully placed the girl in Eloin's arms. She should carry part of her mother's legacy. Eloin looked down. Her daughter would grow up celebrated rather than contained. Protected rather than exploited. She would never be told that being Omega made her weaker or less deserving. Lyra. Kale smiled. After your student? After the first queen's sister in the old stories. Eloin touched the newborn's cheek. The woman who taught an Alpha King mercy. Kale looked at his daughter. Lyra. He smiled. Perfect. A month later, once both children were healthy and Eloin had recovered, the royal heirs were formally presented. The grand hall filled again. This time there was little political tension. Only celebration. Eloin stood beside Kale holding one child while he held the other. She looked across the crowd. Representatives from all 43 packs attended. Even some older alphas who had fought against her reforms. She also saw young wolves who had recently awakened. Families reunited through reintegration programs. And Lyra, the empathic Omega, standing confidently among other wolves now receiving mentorship and protection. Hope filled the room. Citizens of the Northern Territories. Kale's voice carried through the hall. We present our heirs. He lifted their son slightly. Alistair. Then he looked at their daughter. And Lyra. Kale smiled. One future Alpha. A pause. And one future Prime Omega. He looked at Eloin. Or perhaps simply a prime-born girl who will decide her own future. Laughter moved through the hall. Eloin stepped forward. These children represent what we are building. Her voice strengthened. A future where power and compassion coexist. Where strength does not mean domination. She looked down at Lyra. And where every wolf, regardless of rank, blood, or status, has the right to choose a path. Inside, she made a promise to her daughter. You will never be trapped by circumstance the way I was. You will never be told you are worth less because of what you are. And if anyone ever tries to steal your choice, Eloin's eyes lifted. I will burn the world to give it back. She almost smiled. It was the same promise Kale had once made to her. At last, she understood it completely. Love was not possession. Love was defending another person's freedom. Years passed. The reforms Eloin helped create became the foundation of a changed society. Natural hierarchy did not disappear. Alphas remained naturally dominant. Omegas still produced scents that encouraged bonding. Mate bonds still existed. But hierarchy no longer automatically meant oppression. Cooperation slowly replaced fear. Alistair grew into a thoughtful alpha. He inherited his father's wisdom more strongly than his aggression. He became interested in diplomacy and commerce. He wanted to prove business could be ethical. Trade could be fair. Profit did not require exploitation. Lyra refused to follow a single path. At 15, she trained in combat with Elena, studied political philosophy with magistrates, spent time with healers, wrote poetry, and experimented constantly with her considerable Omega abilities. She's going to be more revolutionary than I ever was. Eloin watched Lyra debate scholars about consent inside mate bonds. Kale wrapped one arm around her. She learned from the best. 20 years after Eloin's claiming, she stood again on the palace balcony. Silver now threaded through her dark hair. Laugh lines marked her eyes. Her body carried evidence of a life that had finally been lived rather than merely survived. A messenger arrived from the south. The rogue population had fallen nearly to zero. Reorganized packs were prosperous. Cooperative governance had produced changes no one predicted. New agricultural methods. Improved trade routes. Scientific discoveries benefiting every territory. Elena, ancient now but still sharp-eyed, joined Elowin. The human kingdoms are watching. Interested? Some, Elena smiled. Others are frightened by how powerful we've become. Then show them we don't want conquest. Elowin looked toward distant mountains. Only coexistence. That requires diplomacy. Elena's tone became suspiciously casual. Someone should represent our values. Elowin already knew. You think Lyra is ready? I think she has been ready for years. Elena smiled. You are the one who needed to realize it. That evening, Elowin spoke with her daughter. She explained the possibility of a diplomatic mission to the neighboring human kingdoms. Lyra's eyes immediately brightened. Really? Yes. You'd let me? Elowin stopped, then corrected gently. I would suggest it. Lyra smiled. But? It's your decision. Yes. The answer came instantly. Yes, I want to go. Emotion tightened Elowin's chest. This was what she had fought for. Not only her own freedom. This. Her daughter imagining futures Elowin had never possessed enough freedom to imagine. Before Lyra departed, mother and daughter sat together in the royal gardens. I'm nervous. Lyra twisted her hands. What if I say something wrong? You probably will eventually. Lyra stared. Elowin smiled. Then you learn and do better. Mom. Lyra shook her head. How are you always calm? I'm not. You look calm. I'm terrified constantly. Lyra laughed. Elowin took her hand. There's something I wish someone had told me when I was your age. Lyra listened. Fear and courage are not opposites. Real courage is being afraid and acting anyway. She squeezed her daughter's hand. And your power, whatever form it takes, does not exist only to be used. What else is it for? Choosing. Elowin's voice softened. You decide what kind of person you become. You decide what kind of person you become. You decide what kind of person you become. Whatever path you choose, I will support you. Lyra hugged her. I'm going to make you proud. You already do. Elowin held her tightly. Every day you choose to be yourself. After Lyra left, Elowin returned to the balcony overlooking North Spire. Her life seemed impossible when viewed from beginning to end. She had gone from scrubbing stone floors to ruling territories, from believing she was worthless to understanding her value, from being hunted by alphas to choosing one who respected her agency. There had been countless moments when she wanted to run, moments when responsibility seemed too heavy, moments when she wondered whether she deserved any of it. But somewhere along the way, Elowin learned what destiny actually meant. It was not something imposed by magic, not fate, not blood, not circumstance. Destiny was built from choices, choosing courage while frightened, choosing to believe you deserved better, choosing to help someone else even while carrying your own scars. Elowin awakened with Prime Omega power, but power had not made her queen. Choice had, wisdom had, compassion had. She built systems that protected everyone's agency, not merely her own. And she raised children who would continue changing what she had only begun. Night settled across the city. Kale found her on the balcony. Come to bed. He wrapped his arms around her. In a moment. What are you thinking about? How far we came. From Silverpine? From everything. Elowin looked across the glittering capital. From a kingdom divided by fear, to one held together by shared purpose. She leaned against him. From a world where power meant domination, to one where power means stewardship. Kale smiled. And? Elowin laughed softly. From a girl who thought she was worthless. She gestured toward the kingdom below. To this. Kale kissed her temple. And we're only beginning. Elowin looked at him. The human kingdoms are afraid. Not because our armies are powerful. Kale's voice became thoughtful. They're afraid because we proved another system can work. He looked over North Spire. And ideas spread. Elowin smiled. Good. Let them spread. She took his hand, not through conquest, through example. They remained on the balcony as stars appeared above the city. The bond between them still hummed as strongly as it had all those years before, not because magic had forced it to survive, because they had continued choosing each other. Somewhere in Northspire, their daughter prepared for a diplomatic mission that might change relations with the human kingdoms. Across the territories, wolves made thousands of smaller choices that would shape the generations after them. And somewhere in history yet to be written, people would remember the half-blood Omega who awakened as Prime, the Alpha King who chose partnership over possession, and the Queen who transformed a kingdom through strength tempered by mercy. Elwyn looked at Kale. "I love you," she had said it countless times. Tonight it still felt new. Kale smiled. "I love you too. Always." They walked back into the palace hand in hand. Elwyn was no longer the unwanted half-blood. She was no longer the orphan hiding bruises beneath tangled hair, no longer the hunted Omega running through a forest. She was Elwyn, Queen of the Northern Territories. A mother, a builder, a woman who had taken power once used to frighten her and turned it into something capable of changing the world. And for the first time, she understood completely what her mother had tried to tell her. She had always been special, not because destiny had selected her, not because she was Prime, but because even when the world tried to decide everything for her, Elwyn learned how to choose.